And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It is 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. Right, this show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it is yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also co-founder of Navarro Media, Aaron Bastani. Coming up in my niggle, I take on the Prime Minister as he says he regrets saying this.
We risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together.
This is the only decent thing that he said, for God's sake. So in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, is it time for Keir Starmer to go? I mean, the poll is live on GB News, gbnews.com.co.uk. Head over there, cast your vote now. I mean, he seems to be quite the undisputed king of U-turns, backtracking on 3 policies in the last month.
Change, 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 change.
Changed my mind. That is about the only thing he has changed. And GB News can exclusively reveal that Nigel Farage's heavy social media presence could put Reform UK on course to hoover up the youth vote at the expense of the Labour Party.
Thank you, TikTokers. 1.3 million followers now. Gen Z want to vote Reform. Gen Z are increasingly supporting me.
Yes, Gen Z, 18 to 26-year-olds, I think, but Sir Keir Starmer isn't unconvinced as he took a swipe at Nigel Farage at the Welsh Labour conference this morning.
So no, Nigel Farage isn't interested in Wales. He's interested in Nigel Farage.
And so are you. I mean, this isn't the first time he's mentioned Nigel. Have a listen.
And I'm speaking out today in relation to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Farage, Nigel 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 Farage.
16 times and counting, and that was in just one speech. And in another Great British Debate, I'm asking, is Glastonbury a national embarrassment? The middle-class version of Buttons seems to have reached new levels this year as festival goers report crying for Gaza on Palestine-covered benches. And in my interview, I'll be speaking to music historian and author Elizabeth Sharkey, who's written a book on the history of rock and roll. She's also married to this legend.
Wanna hold her tight. Yeah, teenage kicks right through the night. I'm gonna call her on.
Is that Fergal Sharkey? Before we get started, let's get your latest news with Bethany Elsey.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. Here's your top stories from the GB newsroom at 3:02. Economists are warning tax rises are likely in the autumn following the government's major U-turn on welfare reforms. The Prime Minister announced the concessions yesterday to try and avert a rebellion by more than 120 Labour backbenchers. The changes mean only new claimants, not existing ones, will face stricter checks to decide whether they can claim disability benefits. But critics say it doesn't go far enough and are concerned it will create a two-tier system. Speaking at the Welsh Labour conference this morning, Sir Keir Starmer said fixing the welfare system is a moral imperative.
We cannot take away the safety net that vulnerable people rely on, and we won't. But we also can't let it become a snare for those who can and want to work. And everyone agrees that our welfare system is broken, failing people every day. A generation of young people written off for good, and the costs spiralling out of control. Fixing it is a moral imperative, but we need to do it in a Labour way.
The amount of money hospitals in England receive could be linked to the quality of care they provide, as well as feedback from patients. The plans also include linking doctors' and nurses' pay to their success in bringing down wait lists. It's part of a 10-year NHS plan, which the government will set out next week. Initial pilots will be targeted at services with a poor record of care before being rolled out across the country next year. Thousands of Iranians have gathered in Tehran for a state funeral for the military commanders and nuclear scientists killed during the conflict with Israel this month. Coffins draped in the Iranian flag bearing portraits of those killed were carried through the city centre. The conflict ended with a ceasefire earlier this week after the US became directly involved by bombing key nuclear sites in Iran. Overnight, President Donald Trump said he would absolutely consider bombing Iran again if he thought it was necessary. Border Force has seized £100 million worth of cocaine at a UK port. The Home Office says the drugs were found under containers on a ship arriving into London Gateway Port from Panama. Weighing in at 2.4 tonnes, it marks one of the largest cocaine hauls since records began. Meanwhile, at a port in Dover, 20 firearms, 320 rounds of ammunition and almost 180 kilograms of ketamine were seized. The National Crime Agency are investigating. And the BBC says Kneecap's performance at Glastonbury will not be live-streamed after one of the band members was charged with a terror offence. A number of politicians, including the Prime Minister, had called for the Irish hip-hop group to be banned from the festival. It follows allegations that Liam O'Gahany displayed a flag in support of the proscribed terrorist group Hezbollah during a gig last year. The rapper is currently on bail and due in court again in August, and he denies the offence. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 7 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Right, loads of things coming up. So public confidence in the Prime Minister has plummeted since he came into power only last year, not even a full year. So is Britain experiencing buyer's remorse? That, of course, depends on whether you bought him or bought it. Into it. Then in the Great British Debate, is it time for Sir Keir Starmer to go? I put it on a poll. It's live on the GB News website. Head over there, cast your vote. Jets overhead, boots on the ground. The armed forces are taking over Cleethorpes for one of the biggest military weekends in the country. Of course, it's Armed Forces Day. In the Great British Debate on the way as well, I'm asking, are Labour onto something with one in, one out? This is the new immigration plan, where every illegal immigrant we deport back to France, we must accept an asylum seeker from them in return. But what about none in, all out? GB News also can exclusively reveal that Nigel Farage's heavy social media presence could put Reform UK on course to hoover up the youth vote at the expense of Labour. All of that is on the way. As ever, send me your thoughts. Post your comments at gbnews.com/your say. So public confidence in the Prime Minister has plummeted since he came into power last year. And that is according to a new poll by Public First for The Telegraph. 53% of voters have a very unfavourable view of Sir Keir Starmer, with only 26% supporting him. That's a whopping 21% drop since he took office. So is Britain experiencing buyer's remorse? Well, joining me now is political historian and author Sir Anthony Seldon. Anthony, thank you very much for joining us. Has there been anyone, a Prime Minister in history, this unpopular in such a short space of time?
So they've been nice to be on, Nana, and there've been lots who become unpopular, but to be this unpopular this quickly, I mean, Liz Truss, well, she wasn't around for long enough, but that was a spectacular fall. This is very, very unusual. It's slightly hard to say whether it is the most precipitous decline ever, because polls have been different over different times and asking slightly different questions, but let us say that it is alarmingly precipitous.
OK. So when in history a Prime Minister has been this unpopular, or something that kind of equates to how unpopular Keir Starmer is, do they, so far historically, have they managed to turn it around? And if so, are there, which Prime Ministers have sort of started off badly and then suddenly turned everything around?
Well, you know, it's very difficult once you lose confidence in the country, and above all, where your own MPs lose confidence in you, and the media pick that up in part because they're telling the media what it's like inside the parliamentary party or inside Number 10. You really do have the skates under you, and John Major had that from 1992, Black Wednesday, when Britain came out of the exchange rate mechanism. He never, in his last 5 years, I mean, Norman Lamont famously said about him, he was in office, but not in power. And something similar for Gordon Brown after he was going to call an early general election in 2007, shortly after taking over. Then he pulled out of it, and he never quite had that moment back again. And Boris Johnson, in his last year, the skates were under him. It's very hard, Nana, to pick up. Once you've lost the confidence and trust, it's as if you've got a sign hanging over you saying damaged property, and people are just waiting for that moment to come. Can I just say, though, that from another perspective, it would not be good for the country if he was to go and have a successor, say, in the autumn. It would be 8 different prime ministers in just 15 years. Now, that is without precedent. That's from Gordon Brown, and then Cameron, May, Johnson, Truss, Sunak, and now Starmer and somebody else. I mean, who would that be? Wes Streeting, maybe, Angela Rayner, maybe. But this is not good for democracy. It's not good for economic stability. It's not good for the perception of Britain abroad as a trading nation, as a credible partner. So, I think that many people would want him to go, I'm sure, but from a national perspective, it would be better if he was to somehow pull out of this and show, above all, a commitment to growth. I mean, nothing matters more. Growth, as you know, has been flatlining since 2008. Productivity disastrous. To get growth back, to get the wealth earners and the high-value people not leaving the country but staying and others joining, and to get optimism back so that all parts of the country could feel a sense of growing prosperity for themselves and their children rather than anxiety.
Well, there seems to be a lot of that around. So Anthony Seldon, thank you very much for your thoughts. He's a political historian, and those are his views. But I've got to interrupt as there's a fly past about to start in Cleethorpes for Armed Forces Day. Our man Jack Carson is on the ground. Have we missed it, Jack?
Yeah. No, we've not had it just yet, Nana. We are patiently awaiting. The commentators for the air displays we've had this afternoon are talking, and we did expect it about 2 minutes ago, so we're running a little bit behind here, seemingly in Cleethorpes, but lots of people here staying around to see this. This is a Battle of Britain memorial fly past. We've had the likes of the Red Arrows perform a 20-plus minute air display earlier on today. That was absolutely fantastic, watched by the 200,000 people here earlier. Earlier on, we spoke to Wing Commander Adam Collins. He told us about the pride and the honour that he feels to be able to be Wing Commander for the Red Arrows, one of the most, of course, iconic sights in the skies that we see on such ceremonial occasions, such as this being Armed Forces Day. This is the national event for Armed Forces Day today, but this Battle of Britain Memorial flight, these fly from RAF Coningsby in Lincolnshire. It was originally inaugurated back in 1957 at RAF Biggin Hill, and initially called the likes of a RAF Historic Aircraft Flight, and we are expecting a Spitfire and a Hurricane. Unsure whether we're going to get a Lancaster bomber. Of course, there are not many Lancasters flying still in the air at the moment. A lot of them having to be serviced, a few kept back for days and events such as this. Earlier on, we also saw a Chinook fly over. That was absolutely fantastic. And if I just step out the way, here we go. There we go. That is a Spitfire and a Hurricane flying by. Look at that. Here in Cleethorpes. The crowd's watching on, waving. Saying this is all part of the Battle of Britain Memorial flight that takes place here, taking off from RAF Coningsby, so not too far away from where we are in Cleethorpes. And of course, these great historic aircraft playing their part in World War history. You think back to what these aircraft were able to do in the Battle of Britain all those years ago, those decades ago. And as we think in recent times how we celebrated this year 80 years since victory in Europe, these planes that we can see in the air just coming round now for another fly past the crowds here in Cleethorpes, through the trees over here, and as they bend and dip round, showing themselves to the crowd, that Spitfire and that Hurricane. And how beautiful a sight they are when we think back to 80 years that we celebrated a short while ago of victory in Europe. Those two aircraft and the squadrons that flew them and kept the skies over Britain safe, helped free our allies in Europe from Nazi Germany. Those two planes being celebrated today on National Armed Forces Day, because today, as well as celebrating those current military personnel, as we have been doing, we've been speaking today to the likes of the Coldstream Guards and talking to them about their ceremonial duties. We've been seeing the parades of the cadets, that next generation of people that will take on the defence of this country in the Air Force and the Navy and the British Army, and also those veterans as well, and these veteran aircraft. And it's amazing that they are still able to fly, that those people, those mechanics and those engineers can keep these planes running so that we can experience them and enjoy them on days like today on National Armed Forces Day. And the veterans we've spoken to today, we spoke to a 103-year-old veteran earlier on today. He's telling us around his campaigns that he did in Egypt, in the Second World War, and hundreds of thousands of people here in Cleethorpes. And I think we're going to get one more flyby in this flypast. Unfortunately, the Lancaster bomber are unable to join us today as part of this flypast, but we are going to get, I think, one more flyby as they sit there in the horizon. People today celebrating everything to do with our armed forces, and it's amazing actually, having been here in Cleethorpes today, to witness the likes of the Red Arrows, to witness the band of the Coldstream Guards here parading through Cleethorpes. It was everything really that was best of British, everything that when we think of the armed forces we need to celebrate. And so many people today telling us around the importance of celebrating our armed forces, not just those, of course, currently serving, more than 8,000 currently serving across the world in multiple different countries, in different operations to ensure the safety and security of our country. And of course, these two planes that you're seeing now as part of this fly past, that Hurricane and that Spitfire, as part of the Battle of Britain memorial flight. And look at some of them doing a bit of a loop for us as well, showing off a little bit there for the crowd, as they're saying there's 200,000 people here. This is all about celebrating the wonderful armed forces that we have here today. And I think as they fly off into the distance, that kind of really concludes what a fantastic day it's been here in Cleethorpes for these thousands of people that have been here gathering today, for the different kinds of people, whether it's cadets, serving personnel or veterans. Today has really all been a fantastic celebration of our British forces.
All right, Jack Carlson, thank you very much. Fabulous. Good to see. Of course, Armed Forces Day, the last Saturday in June. Thank you so much, Jack. He's out there in Cleethorpes. Right, let's move on. Hospital funding will become dependent on patient ratings in a massive NHS overhaul to be announced next week. I love the sound of that. It will mean that salaries for doctors and nurses will become tied to how satisfied patients are with their treatments. Well, joining me now, Labour councillor for Lambeth, Martin Abrams. Martin, I like the sound of this. I think that people should be given performance pay, and I think it's a great idea from the Labour Party. So what do you think, Martin? Because, I mean, you know, it's your party that have come up with it. Finally, somebody sorted something that will require the members of staff to be, be focused on what they're doing, just like you would be in a private capacity. So where is Martin?
Well, good afternoon, Nana. As you might have guessed, I'm not overly keen on this proposal from Wesley Streeting because, I mean, the main thing is that our NHS has been underfunded for decades. And whilst the Labour Party have started to put more funding in to recover from the devastating underfunding that we faced under 15 years of Conservative government, there hasn't been enough time for the NHS to recover. The NHS needs significantly more funding. On a comparison, like-for-like basis, our NHS receives significantly less funding than countries like Spain, France, and other European countries on a per-patient basis. And now, NHS staff, like nurses and doctors, are now essentially potentially going to have their pay linked to the performance of the NHS. Hold on. Really, it's really unacceptable to link that at the moment. It'd be funny if MPs and the people making these decisions had their pay linked to their performance, because many of them wouldn't be receiving a penny.
I don't disagree with you. I think that MPs should have their pay linked to their performance, 100%. I'm with you. But I also think that doctors and nurses should also have their pay linked to their performance as well. And when you were talking about giving the NHS more money, I think that perhaps if they stopped wasting money, 10 billion a year in waste, because the people doing it are they're not bothered about it because there's a money tree, which is us, the general public, and we should be thankful because we're not paying for it, so it appears, but we are. We're just not paying for it at the point of need. But if I was to look at how much money I pay in tax towards the NHS, my private medical cover is much cheaper and way more efficient. So I think that to make doctors and nurses more accountable, I think 100% their performance should be related to their pay.
I'm not sure how you've worked that out, Nana, to be honest. How do you know how much of your taxes are going towards the NHS?
Well, let me just... I can work that out. You didn't know, I can tell you.
It's one of the greatest creations this country has ever made. National health free at the point of use. And that is exactly what it should be.
It's not free, though, is it?
over the decades, well, it is free because
it's not free.
universal health.
It's not free. You pay for it in taxes, only at the point of need.
It's the free
but it's
at
expensive.
The point of use.
Yeah.
And universal health care has been something that other countries have looked towards us with absolute envy. You know, in the US, where people are regularly bankrupted because of how much they have to pay in health insurance, and then the insurers refuse to pay out. You know, other countries which have nowhere near as good a health service as ours. The problem with our health service, Nana, is that for years it has been underfunded, and over the course of the Conservative government, it has been rapidly privatised, so it's become more and more fragmented, which means you're starting to get two-tier health services depending on which area of the UK you live or what type of health need that you may have. What we need is significantly more funding for our NHS. We need to pay the nurses and doctors more to stop them leaving for other countries like Australia, like they are doing in absolute droves, because funnily enough, they pay more in Australia, the working conditions are better, and they have a better quality of life. And we need to absolutely drive out all the privateers from the health service and once again make it the jewel in the crown of our public services, so that people can be proud of our health service and get absolute health care that they need whenever they need it.
All right, so just to answer your question, about 80% of NHS funding comes from the taxes that we pay, and about 20% comes from national insurance. So if I look at the 20% that comes from the national insurance, the amount of national insurance I pay, already there, I'm looking to be paying way more than private medical cover, and that doesn't even take into account what I'm paying in taxes, and they waste 10 billion. So I absolutely think they do not get more money. They need to be more efficient, and I think that would start with performance-related pay, because people who do a bad job, if people are doing a bad job, they shouldn't just be paid just willy-nilly. Most of them are very good, though, I must say. It's really good to talk to you. Thank you very much, Martin Abrams. I've got to leave it there, but it's a shame, because I'd like to talk to you for longer. But anyway, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, I'll be taking on the Prime Minister as he says he regrets saying the UK risks becoming an island of strangers. For God's sake, here, grow a backbone. But next, it's time for the Great British Debate, and I'm asking, is it time for Sir Keir Starmer to go?
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
Not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
What stresses you out the most?
Oh, stupid people. Yeah, stupid people. Actually, I'm convinced the world is full of stupid people.
Right, OK.
All right, so stupid people...
Why are you looking at me? Why are you looking at me?
I actually wouldn't look at you, mate. You're a smart person. But no, honestly, if you were in my life, particularly when you rely on people to do things for you and they just can't see the obvious thing to do.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But you have to be very grateful that they are doing things for you.
Yeah, that's...
Ellie, for me, it depends on the mood I'm in. Because if little things happen and I'm not in the right mood, then everything drives me crazy.
Now, that is a very good point. So, micro stresses.
Is that what it is?
But according to the Daily Mail this morning, 89% of Britons are finding the small stresses is exhausting them the most.
Yeah.
Things like being stuck in traffic.
Yes.
Hate that. The bin bag breaking.
I actually don't mind being stuck in traffic.
No, I do. I find it...
That's OK.
Great on my soul.
Unless it's late, I'm late for something. Although I was stuck for about 3 hours trying to get home yesterday.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but you see, I don't think those are micro stresses. I think they're major stresses.
Full-on stresses.
That's what the study says,
So listen, don't pass them off as, it's only just stuck in traffic. That's a major thing.
OK, yeah. That's major stress. OK.
Yeah.
It says sometimes it triggers the same exhaustion as a single major life event. If you have lots of these in a day. So bin bag breaking is you taking it out, losing your keys.
That's a major one.
Yeah.
That's major for me.
People who walk slowly. That is so irritating. Forgetting to charge your phone overnight, forgetting to put the bins out, not being able to find an outfit.
You know what I really hate? Really, really grinds my gears?
What?
Is when I either let someone out, and when I'm in the car, I let someone out and they don't say thanks, or I stop and let them cross over and they don't go...
That's irritating.
Then I go...
Well, I tend to agree with you, Paul.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. If you just come in from the heat, then relax, because it's nice and cool here on GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio, 27 minutes after 3 o'clock. And it's time for the first great British debate of the hour. And I'm asking, is it time for Sir Keir Starmer to go? In the latest flip-flop, the Prime Minister seems that he says that he deeply regrets saying that the UK was becoming an island of strangers. I think he's absolutely right. What's the problem with that? But this follows Sir Keir Starmer's once again bowing down to pressure as he announced major concessions on the welfare bill. It completes a hat-trick of policy U-turns, announcing a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal and reinstating winter fuel. I mean, what have they been doing for these last almost year? Nothing that they have put forward has actually come to fruition. So for the great British debate, I'm asking, is it time for Sir Keir Starmer to go? Well, joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also co-founder of Novara Media, Aaron Bastani. Aaron Bastani, we'll start with you.
Is it time for him to go?
Is it?
Well, I don't see him being replaced by anybody significantly better. I don't think he will. I don't think he will go. I think that Rachel Reeves is his insurance policy.
Because she's so bad?
Yeah, she'll stick around till the budget, and I think that will go terribly. He'll ditch her, and then the challenge for Keir Starmer is he able to hold on until after next May's local elections? Because Labour, boy, they're going to get a hammering. In a little under 12 months from now. There's a remarkable statistic in today's FT from a lady called Ruth Gregory at Capital Economics. She says the Chancellor now needs to raise between 10 and 20 billion pounds.
Wow.
We're going to get lots of cuts and lots of tax rises in autumn, and I think that'll be the end of Rachel Reeves, certainly.
I think so. That's why I did my miggy. OK. But that was because of her haircut. It's a bit like Tweaky out of Buck Rogers.
Reminds me of
Lizzie
Lego
Cundy.
haircut. Keir Starmer. He's a disaster. He's a disaster. The worst Prime Minister we've ever had. He is the pointless PM. I mean...
Well, he would argue that he was handed over one of the worst economies, and we have to admit that the Tories were a complete and utter show.
They were a disaster. That's why he got in. But Keir Starmer's done more U-turns than a Top Gear DVD that I've watched. I mean, U-turn after U-turn, he is the surrender merchant. Shall we go through what he surrendered on? He started off with the train drivers, didn't he? Surrendered to them. Surrendered the EU over the fishing rights. Surrendered the Chagos Islands, of course. And then he surrendered with the Spanish with Gibraltar. He's now surrendering with his own, you know, the rebels in his own party, 127 of them. The list goes on and on. Now he needs to surrender himself. Get that little flag and go. Go now with immediate effect.
Who would you replace him with, though? Because what have we got left? Ed Miliband, Angela Rayner, Wes Streeting, I mean, Rachel Reeves.
They all are a joke.
Yvette Cooper.
Oh, please, they're all awful. I knew they'd be bad, but I didn't think they'd be this bad. You know, there's not really anyone I can think of that I would have.
So if he went, then, like we're saying, he should go. As you said, Aaron Bastani, who on earth could replace him if he did?
From Labour's perspective, I think the only real candidate is Angela Rayner.
Oh,
I know, you're not going to like it, guys.
Lord help us.
Even from your perspective, she'd be the best of a bad bunch, because Labour are really vulnerable to reform in places like the North West. And I don't think Angela Rayner, by the way, is going to keep her seat at the next election as things stand. But I think she represents... You cannot have another Southerner. You cannot have Wes Streeting. Right? He's going to lose his seat as well, by the way. But that's another problem. They can't have a leader who loses their own seat.
But does it make any difference where they're from? I mean, Nigel is kind of a Southerner. Everyone loves him, irrespective of North or South.
Yeah. Nigel Farage is a national personality who's built that up over decades. I don't think that's really the case for anybody on the Labour bench.
Perhaps Angela Rayner, she's been around for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about relatability, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's not there, even though
she's a lot more relatable than some of them.
Well,
Nana.
even though we thought she was, some of the things like the workers' rights bill, I mean, that's just that's just a ridiculous notion. 0 hours contract, you're going to remove them all.
Should tax, more.
There's bits of it that are good, but most of it's bad.
I tell you, I've just thought of Burnham, the Manchester.
He's not an MP, right? That's the point.
Yeah,
I would have
but
said
he
Burnham,
would be someone that I would
yeah.
actually think he could do a good job, a better job. But I think anyone could do a better job than Keir Starmer. He shows no leadership. He's got no charisma, and he's winning favour more with Donald Trump than his own MPs. He is an actual disaster. He's got to go.
All right, well, if he goes, who would you replace Keir Starmer with? That is the question. gbnews.com/your say if he were to go. 32 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, I'll be taking on the Prime Minister as he says that he regrets saying the UK risks becoming an island of strangers. For goodness sake, here, grow a backbone. But next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, will reform win the youth vote? But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister says fixing what he calls the broken welfare system is a moral imperative amid backlash from Labour rebels who say concessions made to the bill don't go far enough. Hospital funding could be directly linked to the quality of care they provide and patient feedback. The plans are part of a 10-year NHS scheme to be set out by the government next week. Amber heat health alerts are in force across much of England as the country faces its second heat wave of the summer, with temperatures expected to soar into the mid-30s this weekend, peaking on Monday. Border Force has seized 2.4 tonnes of cocaine, worth £100 million at London Gateway Port. It's one of the largest cocaine hauls ever since records began. The National Crime Agency is investigating. I'm Lewis Mackenzie, and those are your headlines.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So the temperatures are going to continue to rise over the next couple of days, but it isn't going to be that warm for all of us. There is still some rain around. All thanks to this weather front that's sitting across the central swathe of the UK, going to continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle over the next couple of days. But we do have high pressure down to the south. Where we see that weather front across northern parts of England, there is going to be some patchy rain and drizzle to end the day on Saturday, perhaps sinking southwards a little into parts of Wales, maybe even southwest England too, seeing some low cloud mist and murk into the early hours of Sunday. But elsewhere, a dry night to come, plenty of clear spells on offer. But despite those clear spells, it is going to be staying really quite mild. Across the south, temperatures only dropping into the high teens, a little fresher further north, but likely still staying in the double figures here. So that does mean a very mild start to the day on Sunday. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, we could see a little bit of low cloud over any high ground, some patchy rain and drizzle in places. But elsewhere across England, generally a dry, bright start to the day. A similar start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland too. Plenty of early morning sunshine on offer. Maybe one or two isolated showers just across the Northern Isles of Scotland. But for most of us, a dry and bright and pleasant start to the day on a Sunday morning, albeit quite a mild start too. That rain and drizzle across parts of Wales, perhaps southwest England, does continue as we head towards the afternoon. Perhaps some rain just arriving across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland too. But for most of us, a dry, bright and sunny day and a really quite warm day too, particularly across the southeast. Again, temperatures around 29, 30, perhaps even 31 degrees, and even across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, temperatures into the low 20s. That rain pushes northwards across parts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry night for most places to come on Sunday night, but another really quite mild night too. And that sets us up for the peak in those temperatures on Monday or Tuesday, where we could see highs of 34, perhaps even 35 degrees across the southeast, with plenty more sunshine to come.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
To all of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 3rd year in a row.
So thank you so much for voting for us.
First, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come down the line.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's because of you that we're proud to be the People's Channel. It's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is GB News. Cracky, I was shouting. Nana Akua. I've been hanging around with my beautiful fiancé for too long. He shouts a bit, but I think it's because of his ears.
Oh.
Yeah, I think his ears, doesn't it? Like, I asked Alexa, what's the time? And if you whisper to Alexa, what's the time? She whispers back. Oh. And he didn't hear it. I said, did you not hear that? And he goes, no, babe. So I did it again. Alexa, what's the time? And he goes, and Alexa said, the time is there. And he didn't hear it.
Oh. Yeah, whisper to my Alexa.
And whisper to your Alexa, see what she says. She whispers back, or he. Well, welcome to you as well. That's probably... Anyway, it's time for the Great British Debate. I'm asking, are Labour onto something with one in, one out? Sir Keir Starmer is in talks with France to return Channel migrants under a new exchange scheme. Under the plans, Britain would send migrants back to France within weeks of their arrival and then into the UK. And the UK would take asylum seekers from France instead of those who've come via the Channel. So for the Great British Debate, I'm asking, are Labour actually on to something with one in, one out? Well, joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also co-founder of Novara Media, Aaron Bastani. Lizzie Cundy, we'll start with you.
What fool made this idea up? I'm sorry, the migrant merry-go-round in the Channel, one coming in, one coming back. No, no, no. How are they going to deal with this? Who's going to... You know, the French, we've given them £500 million. They haven't even got their feet wet. This is not going to work, Nana. I think it's just smoke and mirrors from Keir Starmer. Once again, it's a distraction rather than action. It's appalling. I think this is a joke.
Well, what if, because I've looked at this and I thought, well, it is actually in the implementation of it. If, instead of them coming to the UK and then we send them back in 3 weeks, what if we stop them in the Channel, yeah, once they come across to the British side, because obviously the French just let them free fall and come straight in, and then they get on our boat, but they don't realise it, but the RNLI boat will actually take them back to France, and then we can have one of the migrants that is processed. Because even though I don't agree with the notion of one in, one out, I do agree with the notion of turning the boat back. Yeah. And if you do that, rather than keeping them here for 3 weeks, and they go off somewhere, or we've got to put them in a hotel, and...
Yeah, exactly.
No. Aaron Bastani.
I think it's quite a sensible idea. I think you're incentivising the French to not muck about. You're sharing the burden, the proverbial burden, and you're disincentivising, particularly if you enforced it like that, you're disincentivising present crossings.
Well, if you enforced it in the way I'm doing it, what they've said
it's all in
is
the
that you'll stay there for 3 weeks, they'll return them within 3 weeks, which suggests that they land in the UK, we've got to house them for 3 weeks, which is never 3 weeks, and then we've got to send them back.
It's all in the enforcement.
Why not just do it in the Channel when they arrive, when they do that, you do that, and that will stop the model for the smugglers immediately.
I think...
And then we can take one of the others, that's fine.
Well, we can't trust the French.
No, but...
We can't trust them. They haven't done anything yet so far. I'm sorry. And Keir Starmer, you know, he's like... You remember the Midas touch? Everything turns to gold. With him, everything turns to mould.
The Medusa touch.
And it just is not going to work, Nana. We can't trust them.
Why are you laughing at?
No, I love these phrases. You said more U-turns than a Top Gear DVD, and now you've gone gold to mould. I love it. You know, it's like,
gold to mould.
When I'm with Lizzie, I learn all these great phrases.
Gold to mould. And we cannot trust the French. I'm sorry.
What do you think, Aaron? She's saying we can't trust them.
I mean, I think it is a sensible idea, and it's about the enforcement. If we can't trust the French, then the whole thing's, you know, it's kibosh, isn't it? Because that's ultimately where people are coming from.
Well, so far, have they done anything that would suggest that we can?
I think this is a more sensible idea than giving them the £500 million. Because this is...
We've already given it, though.
Well, yeah, this is a setup where it's disincentivising the channel crossings and it's incentivising the French to play ball. I think it's a really smart idea in theory.
It only disincentivises the people crossing if they don't get a 3-week stay in the UK, because they then can start doing their appeals, which we start paying for, and then they're in the middle of a legal thing, and then this.
I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah. So
if it's a year, it's not going to work. If it's 72 hours, it probably would work.
No,
you know.
if
So
it's,
there's
if it's 0 hours. Like there's contracts that Angela Rayner wants to scrap. If it's 0 hours, so they don't actually set foot in the UK, but
they will be in British waters.
No,
right?
but that is the UK. So, but they're not UK soil.
Yeah.
Water is fine. Then they get onto the boat, which would rescue them normally, because that's what they all do. And the boat just takes them back to France. We count how many have gone back, and then the French can send us some asylum seekers who they've already vetted, and this would work. But in the end, it would disincentivise people crossing via the channel. It would break the people smugglers model.
Yeah.
We would still have to take on migrants, but however, if we know who they are, then we can assess them and decide what we do. You know what I mean?
The thing is, we haven't got a deterrent, and this government got rid of Rwanda, which was so stupid. And look at the numbers. They're going up and up and up. This is another gimmick, Nana, and it won't work.
They were naive, weren't they, the Labour Party, in getting rid of Rwanda?
I think this is smarter than Rwanda.
Well, this might be smarter, but you need it as well as, because if you can't send them back to France or whatever the processing, because remember, they come here to, maybe we'll have to process them in some way. Where will we keep them? Where will we store them? Will they just be allowed to stay in a hotel for the 3 weeks? Well, they'll just disappear. Yeah. Why should they...
The problem with Rwanda was... Well, there are a bunch of problems with Rwanda, but the main problem, I think the criticism of Rwanda, which is very difficult to argue against, is that it was only, 1,000 places?
Yeah, but you're not going to...
It's a deterrent.
It's a deterrent. You don't expect
how many people... You have on some days 1,000 people cross the channel.
Yeah, but they wouldn't if they thought that they could go to Rwanda. I can tell you that now.
But it's only 1,000 places. I know what you're saying. If it was 50,000 places, then I'd say, OK, maybe.
But so you're saying that some people are prepared to be fodder, just they're not.
Of course, they'll take a calculated risk.
But they're not prepared to be fodder for the first 1,000 because they know that it'll be enforced. Would you? I mean, if you're going to cross the channel, you're living in a tent, so obviously you want to get a hotel. I'm sure we'd all do it. So there you go. But they say, but the first 1,000 will end up in Rwanda.
And it would affect the gangs, would actually think about that, thinking, right, we could end up in Rwanda. We won't do it. It would stop them.
And as soon as some people end up in Rwanda, then who's going to be the brave soul that's going to say, well, take me, I'll sacrifice myself so that all of you lot, none of them will do that.
Do you know what's quite amusing in all this? Microsoft have set up like a base in Rwanda. It's kind of like it's the AI capital of West Africa.
Oh, there you go. You see,
but when we talk about Rwanda, it's not that bad, you know.
It's not that bad, and like for like, if you look at knife crime, murders, and everything else, actually, it's safer. But listen, if you are in search of some holiday sun, although why go anywhere? Then here are the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading further afield for a holiday over the next few days, windy in Greece, but widespread sunshine for much of the Mediterranean, and I suspect increasingly hot in many places. We've got a keen breeze for Madeira and the Canaries, nothing unusual for the time of year. The heat continues to build through Spain, Portugal, France and Italy. Temperatures high 30s and in some places low or even mid-40s. Very breezy through Greece, but staying largely sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Good afternoon. If you just tuned in, where have you been? Oh, OK, out in the sunshine. Oh, no, OK, I hear you. 48 minutes after 3 o'clock. Welcome. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, can Reform UK win the youth vote? 80-year-old Rod Stewart has called on Britain to give Nigel Farage a chance. He actually previously was voted Labour, didn't he, Rod Stewart? Yeah. But Reform UK don't just seem to be going for the oldies. GB News can reveal they're expected to smash the youth vote in the next election. After all, Nigel Farage has a big online presence and over 1 million followers on TikTok.
Thank you, TikTokers. 1.3 million followers now, which is more than the other 650 MPs.
As a Barbers, that's not Turkish. What, a Barbers that pays tax?
Yeah.
No, surely
we
not.
are the only one that takes card.
You're not.
Apparently.
You're going to tell me you actually have customers. Have a look at that. Graham has made Reform UK. And there's no doubt about one thing. The SNP and Labour Party are bricking it.
It is complete madness, but it's the way the government are doing over the younger population.
That's actually quite funny, isn't it? Well, joining me is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also co-founder of Novara Media, Aaron Bastani. Yes, now, a lot of people, Aaron, were saying that, oh, Labour, that Reform UK are eating into the Conservative vote. Obviously, the Conservatives don't have any votes at all. But it was quite obvious to me that a lot of the voters for Reform UK would come from the working class, which are more likely to vote Labour.
Well, that's definitely happened. I mean, I was in Runcorn just before the by-election, and it was really striking how lifelong Labour voters were, if not voting for reform, because Farage has still got to persuade a lot of people, they were listening, right, which is really significant. In terms of young people, again, my experience of talking to people around the country is that particularly young men really like Farage. They're less likely to vote. That's important to say. Young women are less keen on Farage than young men. And I'd also say that Farage's personal political brand is huge, but it's not the same as reform. And that's going to be the struggle for reform in the next 2 to 3 years, is how do you transfer that popularity from Nigel to the 650 candidates you're going to stand in election or election. And on Glastonbury, my goodness, we've got kneecap versus knee replacement. right?
Rod Stewart.
Sir Rod.
Oh, he's been
Sir
taking
Rod.
lessons from you, Lizzie.
Yeah, very good.
Sir Rod.
Very good.
I'm surprised at that overt support for Farage, but I think there's going to be a lot of that ahead of the next general election. Whether or not you agree with Rod Stewart here, he is a national treasure.
Oh, it's amazing. I've met him.
Yeah.
Lizzie knows him.
Yeah,
Lizzie
he's a national
introduced me to
treasure.
him.
My mum loved him to bits, and that's really powerful for people. Really powerful.
Young and old are loving reform, and Nigel has the X factor. Whether you like him or not, he's got it. And they call him the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He's got 1.3 million, following on TikTok. He does it with humour. He's charismatic. He's relatable. The youngsters in my local pub call him a legend. They're always saying, "Please get Nigel down," and. He's relatable, and it's working. And you just look at the polls. I mean, they are up there. They are up there, and you can see from Keir Starmer, he looks like a scared rabbit.
You know what? This is a kind of a backfire, I think, from ITV, I'm a Celebrity, where they thought, I think, that if they exposed Nigel, that he would look terrible. And the young people would go, "Oh, what a fraud, what a terrible man." Ooh. But it turns out that, and I've met Nigel many times, that he's very gentlemanly, he's charming, and he's very, very polite, but he's very focused, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he's honest. Honest about what he thinks in terms of the political landscape, and honest about what he stands for, which, as you can see, from Sir Keir Starmer is struggling to work out what, if anything, he stands for. So the young people, my daughter thinks he's amazing, and so do all her friends. And I'm a Celebrity was the platform that he was able to show that. And of course, he got on very well with Nella Rose, who was the black girl who said she didn't agree with him, but she liked him.
If we had a presidential system, Nigel Farage would be the favourite to become the president. The problem for Nigel Farage is the fact he's got to manage and corral a political party of 649 other MPs. Some will be great people, some will be easy to manage, some will be narcissistic egomaniacs, very difficult to manage.
Aren't they all narcissistic egomaniacs?
Well, and that's a
look at the Conservative. How many, leaders did they have? That's what ruined them, all the in-house fighting.
Yeah, and that's going to be a challenge for him, is to manage that many people. It's not easy, right? It's really hard.
But you see, the people are disillusioned with Labour and the Tories. The Tories aren't the Conservatives anymore, and Labour don't know what they are. As I said, he's done more U-turns than a Top Gear DVD. We don't know what Keir Starmer stands for. He's lost all credibility, and I think he'll be going before May. For sure.
Well, he was planning to reduce the voting age, wasn't he? Because he thought that most young people would have voted Labour. But I don't think that's going to be happening here.
The data suggests that lots of young people favour the Greens and Reform and the Lib Dems. So this idea that it would be a slam dunk for Plaid and the SNP in Scotland as well. So the idea it's a slam dunk for the Labour Party is just completely
not true. But you saw him in Wales, Keir Starmer. All he talked about was Nigel. Even Keir Starmer's wife is saying he talks about him in his sleep, saying Nigel Farage. He's obsessed, and he's got to stop doing it.
You can imagine. He wakes up going, "Nigel Farage." Nigel Farage. Well, so stay with us. Thank you, Lizzie Cundy, Aaron Bastani. Next, though, it's time for my niggle. I'll be taking on the Prime Minister as he says he regrets saying the UK risks becoming an island of strangers. Grow a backbone, for goodness sake. It's the only decent thing that you've actually said. Let's get an update with your weather.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So the temperatures are going to continue to rise over the next couple of days, but it isn't going to be that warm for all of us. There is still some rain around. All thanks to this weather front that's sitting across the central swathe of the UK, going to continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle over the next couple of days. But we do have high pressure down to the south. Where we see that weather front across northern parts of England, there is going to be some patchy rain and drizzle to end the day on Saturday, perhaps sinking southwards a little into parts of Wales, maybe even southwest England too, seeing some low cloud, mist and murk into the early hours of Sunday. But elsewhere, a dry night to come, plenty of clear spells on offer. But despite those clear spells, it is going to be staying really quite mild. Across the south, temperatures only dropping into the high teens, a little fresher further north, but likely still staying in the double figures here. So that does mean a very mild start to the day on Sunday. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, we could see a little bit of low cloud over any high ground, some patchy rain and drizzle in places. But elsewhere across England, generally a dry, bright start to the day. A similar start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland too. Plenty of early morning sunshine on offer. Maybe one or two isolated showers just across the Northern Isles of Scotland. But for most of us, a dry and bright and pleasant start to the day on a Sunday morning, albeit quite a mild start too. That rain and drizzle across parts of Wales, perhaps southwest England, does continue as we head towards the afternoon. Perhaps some rain just arriving across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland too. But for most of us, a dry, bright and sunny day and a really quite warm day too, particularly across the southeast. Again, temperatures around 29, 30, perhaps even 31 degrees, and even across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, temperatures into the low 20s. That rain pushes northwards across parts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry night for most places to come on Sunday night, but another really quite mild night too. And that sets us up for the peak in those temperatures on Monday or Tuesday, where we could see highs of 34, perhaps even 35 degrees across the southeast, with plenty more sunshine to come.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It is 4 o'clock and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next 2 hours, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also co-founder of Novara Media, Aaron Bastani. Coming up in my niggle, I take on the Prime Minister as he says he regrets saying this.
We risk becoming an island of strangers.
not a nation that walks forward together.
So is it time for Sir Keir Starmer to go? My poll is live on gbnews.com. Head over there, cast your vote. But he seems to be the undisputed king of U-turns, backtracking on 3 policies in the last month.
Change, 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 change.
My mind, yes, he keeps doing it. GB News can also exclusively reveal that Nigel Farage's heavy social media president could put Youth Reform UK on course to hoover up the youth vote at the expense of the Labour Party.
Thank you, TikTokers. 1.3 million followers now. Gen Z want to vote reform. Gen Z are increasingly supporting me.
Yes, but Keir Starmer isn't convinced as he took a swipe at Nigel Farage at the Welsh conference this morning.
So no, Nigel Farage isn't interested in Wales. He's interested in Nigel Farage.
Yes, and so are you. And listen to how many times he mentions him. Have a listen.
And I'm speaking out today in relation to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Farage, Nigel 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 Farage.
I bet when he's having a conversation with his wife and he mentions Nigel, she just rolls her eyes and goes, oh, God, not again. In another Great British debate, is Glastonbury a national embarrassment? The middle-class version of Butlins has reached new levels this year as festival goers report crying for Gaza on Palestine-coloured benches. In the interview, I'll be speaking to music historian and author Elizabeth Sharkey, who's written a book on the history of rock and roll. She's also married to this legend.
Wanna hold her tight. Yeah, teenage kicks right through the night. I'm gonna call.
But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Bethany Elsey.
Sorry to disappoint, but it's Lewis Mackenzie. Good afternoon. It's just after 4 o'clock. Here are your latest GB News headlines. Economists are warning tax rises are likely in the autumn following the government's major U-turn on welfare reforms. The Prime Minister announced the concessions yesterday to try and avert a rebellion by more than 120 Labour backbenchers. The changes mean only new claimants, not existing ones, will face stricter checks to decide whether they can claim disability benefits. But critics say it doesn't go far enough and are concerned it will create a two-tier system. Speaking at the Welsh Labour conference this morning, Sir Keir Starmer said fixing the welfare system is a moral imperative.
We cannot take away the safety net that vulnerable people rely on, and we won't. But we also can't let it become a snare for those who can and want to work. And everyone agrees that our welfare system is broken, failing people every day. A generation of young people written off for good, and the costs spiralling out of control. Fixing it is a moral imperative, but we need to do it in a Labour way.
The amount of money hospitals in England receive could be linked to the quality of care they provide, as well as feedback from patients. The plans also include linking doctors' and nurses' pay to their success in bringing down waiting lists. It's part of a 10-year NHS plan, which the government will set out next week. Border Force has seized £100 million worth of cocaine at a UK port. The Home Office says the drugs were found under containers on a ship arriving into London Gateway Port from Panama. Weighing in at 2.4 tonnes, it marks one of the largest cocaine hauls since records began. Meanwhile, at a port in Dover, 20 firearms, 320 rounds of ammunition and almost 180 kilograms of ketamine were seized. The National Crime Agency are investigating. The BBC says Kneecap's performance at Glastonbury will not be live-streamed after one of the band's members was charged with a terror offence. A number of politicians, including the Prime Minister, has called for the Irish hip-hop group to be banned from the festival. It follows allegations that Liam O'Gahany displayed a flag in support of proscribed terrorist group Hezbollah during a gig in last year. The rapper is currently on bail and due to in court again in August. He denies all allegations. Amber heat health alerts are now in force across much of England as the country faces its second heat wave of the summer. Temperatures are set to soar to the 30s, mid-30s this weekend, peaking on Monday when Wimbledon opens and highs of 34 to 35 degrees are possible in London and Cambridgeshire. That would make it the hottest start to the tournament on record. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in half an hour's time, but now it's back to Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. How can we trust anything that this Labour government say? First, after winning a mega majority where hardly anyone voted because we were also disillusioned by our political classes, Keir Starmer set about introducing things that were not in his manifesto. The winter fuel allowance, for one. Pensioners would lose their allowance if they received more than 11k a year. Well, that's nothing to live on, especially after most have worked all their lives and can no longer work anymore. Well, that was a stupid idea, and surprise, surprise, they U-turned.
As that improves, I do want people to feel the benefit of the measures that we are taking, and that is why I want to ensure that more pensioners are eligible for winter fuel. It is important that, as you'd expect, that we are clear we can afford the decisions we're making.
Then they U-turned on their welfare reforms, which would see many genuinely sick and disabled without benefits. Again, not a mention of this in their manifesto.
To get it right, that's why we've been talking to colleagues and having a constructive discussion with colleagues who've made powerful representations, as a result of which we've got a package which I think will work and we can get it right. And for me, getting that package adjusted in that way is the right thing to do. It means it's the right balance and it's common sense that we can now get on with.
Yes, it is common sense, isn't it? And, of course, the grooming gang scandal, where it was clear that a national inquiry was essential, as GB News' Charlie Peters identified 50 locations where it was or had happened.
Did ask Louise Casey, of course, to look at this for a reason, which is to assure me that there wasn't some further step that needed to be taken. I took that decision months ago.
We're just saying sorry in public life is something which frustrates people.
Chris, I put it in place for a reason.
Yeah.
I asked her to report back to me, and I faithfully told you and others I'd look at what she said. She's come back with a report. I've read it in full. She suggests a national inquiry, and that's what I've immediately put in place on a statutory footing. So for 15 years, I've consistently taken steps in this field. I changed the whole prosecution rules when I was Director of Public Prosecutions. So this is not new to me.
No.
This is something I've been calling out and campaigning on for 15 years.
Really, all obvious areas where it was a case of when, not if, they would have to U-turn, because, frankly, they hadn't thought any of it through. But despite Labour supposedly being the party for those who are in need, of course, the party are trying to blame it all on Sir Keir Starmer, but they voted it through with their massive majority. These were all policy decisions that were obviously wrong, all U-turned, all in the last month. But the one thing that Sir Keir Starmer got right was his Island of Strangers speech, which people likened to Enoch Powell.
We risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together. So when you have an immigration system that seems almost designed to permit abuse, that encourages some businesses to bring in lower paid workers rather than invest in our young people, or simply one that is sold by politicians to the British people on an entirely false premise, then you're not championing growth, you're not championing justice, or however else people defend the status quo.
Well, he told The Observer that he deeply regrets the Island of Strangers speech. He also mentioned that neither he or his speechwriters knew anything about the link with Enoch Powell, in terms of Enoch Powell using the word strangers, which would suggest to me that perhaps he didn't read the speech beforehand, and he certainly didn't write it. Perhaps, as many suspect, Keir is trying to take the Reform vote. He seems to be obsessed with Nigel Farage. Only this morning in a speech he couldn't help but mention him again.
There are those who are firmly stuck in the past. Take Farage. When you ask him about Clapton, he thinks it's running in the 210 at Ascot. A wolf in Wall Street clothing. Because Reform claimed to be the party of patriotism while sucking up to Putin and abusing our armed forces online. They say they're the party of workers, while they vote against workers' rights.
Well, we can add that to the others.
And I'm speaking out today in relation to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Farage, Nigel 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 Farage.
Seriously, is it any wonder that the country is losing confidence in Sir Keir Starmer's incompetent leadership? They haven't even been in for a year. Right, before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up on the show. Sir Keir Starmer has backtracked again, as he says he deeply regrets the Island of Strangers comment. Does he need to grow a backbone? For the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should NHS staff be given performance-based pay? Hospitals could see their funding directly tied to patient satisfaction under a new plan set to be unveiled for the NHS. Then in my Great British Debate, is Glastonbury a national embarrassment? Apart from its general wokeness, festival goers are reportedly weeping on Palestine benches for Gaza. And as we prepare for the Oasis's long-awaited return, new data reveals that fans have already lost millions of pounds on ticket scams. All of that is on the way. As ever, send me your thoughts. Post your comments at gbnews.com/your say. Well, joining me now, political commentator and broadcaster Fahima Mohammed, and she's in the studio. Fahima, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Right, Fahima, your thoughts, come on. He's backtracked 3, he's done a hat-trick of U-turns, and the 4th was one which wasn't a policy-related one, but now, even the speech that he made, he didn't really mean it, he didn't write it, it doesn't sound like he read it beforehand.
I think everyone U-turns when it comes to politics. It's nothing that is imaginable, to be honest.
Within a year, though?
It doesn't matter. Look at Reform. Nigel Farage himself U-turn on smoking ban, even being, standing for MP. We've got, Rishi Sunak U-turn on green policies and tax cuts. We've got Boris Johnson with lockdowns and with pressure from Marcus Rashfield as well when it comes to meals. And Liz Truss, famous U-turn on almost the entire economic policy in 2022. Now, when it comes to this particular U-turn of the Island of Strangers, I think it's listening to the public and actually not associating with xenophobic, narratives. And I think it's right and it is leadership to actually correct their mistakes and continue to listen and actually, correct themselves. I don't see it being a problem. Like him or loathe him, that is what leadership does.
But he hasn't got anything right, though. I mean, look, winter fuel allowance, I could have told him that don't take money from pensioners. That's quite obvious.
But like you said, it's only a year.
No, yeah, exactly, which is very worrying. So I literally, if it's only been just under a year, and he's 3 main policy areas, 2 of which he didn't mention in the manifesto. So winter fuel allowance, didn't mention it. Turns out we didn't like it, because had he mentioned it, he may not have got in with such a massive majority. What was the other one? There's been so many. The grooming gangs national inquiry, obvious to me, probably obvious to you.
That is a good thing.
Let me just say, but it's obvious. These are obvious things. It's obvious to me that you need a national inquiry. Why he even went forward and why they even pushed that through makes no sense to me. So these things, he's not even U-turning on things that, there's a real sort of... He's U-turning on things that the general public are completely against from the beginning.
I understand that, but certain things come up and change happens. And public opinion also is something that we need to understand, that when they are voting for certain parties, their policies are there just to sell. It's literally a lost leader, like in a business. But when it comes to it, you're actually selling goods that is totally different. You go to any sales and you go in there, it's all last year's goods.
Yeah, but if I went to a shop and bought something and they told me it would do this, that and the other, and it didn't, I would take it back. I would say you lied to me.
Fair enough.
You said it would do this and the other.
For you.
Yeah, but well, if it's politics, it should in this short period of time.
And it's not just him.
With these people. Yeah, but look, it's not even been a year, and every single U-turn was
So we need to give it more time.
No,
we need
no
to
more
give
time.
it more time.
No, absolutely
in order
no more.
for it to actually to take on a government that has been, really, really done damage for the last 14 years, and just to turn it around in the next, a year or so, is also not fair.
Give me one really good policy that they've made, the Labour government, since they've been in.
Like I said before, I'm no fan of any party right now.
No, but just give
I'm
me
more
one.
Greens or Independent.
No.
All the things that they've
Like
gone
what?
back on the fact that they are actually doing a
not the
national priming
U-turns.
of
Not the U-turns.
grooming gangs.
One good policy that they came up with that they haven't U-turned on.
I can't think of anything at the top of my head right now.
Exactly. And that's not good, because literally everything they've come up with,
But
they've
like
gone
I said, you
backwards
can
on.
say that with everyone, even with certain policies.
You can't. I
Yes,
can't.
you can.
No.
You can.
No.
Absolutely.
No.
Every single one has always been a negative, a right or a left for every single party. It's always been where they promote certain things at the beginning, and in the end, it does not relay in everyday lives. And most people that I see that are politicians, they do not actually speak for everyday people.
No,
Majority
that's
of the time.
true.
Not
I
even
agree with
Nigel
you.
Farage, to be honest. He might be likeable as a character, but at the end of the day, even his policies don't relate to the working class. And that's also another issue that we need to raise, which we're not talking about.
OK,
Majority of that.
so welfare reforms, taking money off people who are disabled, claiming PIP, I mean, that's, I agree that there are some people, especially young people, in the mental health explosion of people all claiming sick because they've got mental health issues, which is difficult to challenge, really. I do agree that there needs to be some scrutiny with a lot of that, but people who actually need the care, this policy would have trapped people who really genuinely need the care. And it was terrible. I could have told him that.
I think
anyone
the
could have told him
majority of
that.
the time when we are generalising these policies and what it is, when you actually look at the real paperwork of it, it doesn't really mean that. It actually means that they are toughening up on the actual way in which people are going to be processed. They're going to actually open up that sort of gateway where, at the end of the day, people that really deserve it are going to get it, and the ones that are taking advantage may not. So then again, we also realise that, OK, they're taking it away, when actually it's not. It's actually, minimising it so people that really deserve it have it. So easy to generalise.
Nobody disagrees with that.
And, delete information.
Nobody disagrees with that. However, that's not how this would have operated. So nobody disagrees that those who are most in need should get the money. But the way this was set up was that those most in need would have missed out on it. And that's the problem with a lot of the policies that they're bringing out. Like, for example, with the winter fuel, £11,000. That's not enough to live on. In what world could you exist where you think that, say, a pensioner who cannot work, because usually they're too old or they may be ill, to say that, if you earn £11,000, we're going to take away your heat allowance. Well, aren't you going to end up filling the NHS with people who are more ill because they're cold or because this country isn't actually that warm?
I get that.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense, absolutely.
If they came out with things that made sense, that would be fine. But they're starting off with things that don't make sense.
And came in because of COVID, and now that's disappeared. That's why it's actually trying to come back on it. And now they've realised it's not just COVID that people needs those kind of, additional investments. They actually need it throughout. So maybe they're putting policies in and then getting the reaction of people, and that U-turn is actually there to support what people are saying.
OK, so that's
how it works.
They've had 14 years to prepare for government.
Not really.
Yes, they have. They've had...
Nobody has time to prepare for when you get there.
14 years to prepare to be in government. Whilst the Conservatives made mistake after mistake, I certainly don't support their behaviour. The Labour Party have come in on a so-called change manifesto with hidden things that we were never told of, which would mean that their majority would not have been as big as it is. And now literally everything, every major policy they're announcing, they're U-turning. And we're not done, because I suspect they'll have to deal with Chagos, which, again, a surrender, which was madness. Why are we paying so much money to surrender something and then rent it back? That doesn't make any sense to the British taxpayer.
I get what you're saying.
One.
I get what you're saying, but honestly, I think that this shows that this is more of a connection between people and the actual leadership. If they're listening, if they're turning back, if they're doing certain things to actually promote what the real big voices are, then that shows a little bit more consistency and cohesiveness between people on the ground and people that are sitting in Parliament.
I don't think it does.
When they're completely, ignoring it all.
I don't think it does. I think it's people who are scared of losing their jobs in a couple of years' time when Labour fall out of office. Because now there's a lot of Conservative MPs, ex-MPs looking for work. And I tell you right now, that's a lot of MPs now thinking, ooh, hang on a minute.
Maybe you and I should should apply. But regardless...
Well, yeah, we should do. They pay enough for what we could deliver.
Definitely, definitely. But regardless, I do feel that regardless of preparation, just like how you think you're going to be a mum until you actually give birth, then it's a totally different story. When you actually enter the 10 Downing Street, it is totally different. Policies are different. Things that you're going to be aware of is completely different to what you're looking at from the outside.
All right, well, I'll take that analogy. And if I'd been looking after children for 14 years...
It's still not the same.
Hang on. No, I listened to your analogy. If I'd been looking after children for 14 years, I'd have a pretty good idea as to what it would be like to have a child. I'd have a better idea than everybody else.
Nope.
So this is what I think.
I was around kids for so long until I became a mum.
No,
I realised so much difference.
I'm adding to your analogy that you have some learning experience. These guys are saying that they've learned absolutely nothing from the previous government, and they're coming out with a load of claptrap, and they're having to turn it around, and it's not even been a year. It's an utter disgrace.
I
it's
think
embarrassing.
it's changed in politics where, especially with social media, and people are speaking out so much more than even in the last 5 years, where they cannot ignore the noise. It's a difference. We have change in our environment. They could do what they want, get away with it. There's no difference. It's just that we're seeing it differently. Just like when we say, oh, before was different, you know, because of, you know, now it's social media, people are actually responding to tweets, when before that never even made a difference. There is a difference now. Even the fact that they are speaking, they're saying certain things, it's actually giving the voices to the norm.
I'll tell you what I'd like to see is a leader who goes through with what he says he's going to do. He pushes it forward and listens to the public before he comes out with something.
Nothing's
a leader who doesn't hide what he's planning to do. So winter fuel, which obviously they knew about, and then they hid it clearly. And I want to see a leader who has the courage of his convictions, and I'm not seeing it in Sir Keir Starmer. He hadn't obviously even read his own speech. Listen, I've got to move on. Fahima, we could talk for a long time, and we will do. OK, I'll give you final 10 seconds and I've got to go.
Well, when it comes to winter fuel, remember there are wars happening and that changes, and we cannot stick to what we did at the beginning. We have to change over time. Economics, everything changes, migration, because of certain things that happen over, you know, when it comes to foreigners. So at the end of the day, we cannot just say that.
All right, well, I think I can. There are no excuses. Hiding things in your manifesto, not in your manifesto, then people vote for you. Then they vote for you and realise that, well, you're not going to do what you said you're going to do. You're going to do something totally different. I think is unacceptable. But thank you very much to Fahima Mohammed. She's a political commentator. 22 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come in my interview, I'll be joined by author Elizabeth Sharkey about the history of rock and roll. She's also married to this legend. What great hair. But first, in my Great British debate, should NHS staff be given performance-related pay?
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, how about meeting the new ABBA? It's what a lot of people are calling Dad Harmony. It's a new Swedish a cappella group that are the biggest TikTok sensation you can imagine. They are everywhere at the moment, and they join us now. Really good to see you all. With us, we have this morning Thomas, Michael, Sebastian, Peter and Adam. Not necessarily in that order, but I know. There we go. Gents, it's really good to see you. I've got to ask, first and foremost, how did you get started? How do you even get together and think, this is something we can do?
Yeah, it's actually all of a coincidence, to be honest. It was, we were friends, but we were Peter had a bachelor party. And like 10 p.m. or something, we started to sing. And I recorded that song. And for some reason, I put it out on my TikTok account with like 7 followers or something. And then it blew up and got like, the first video got 22 million views, I think.
beautiful.
Just
really
gorgeous.
beautiful.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
26 minutes after 4 o'clock. Welcome on board. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. If you just joined me, where have you been? We start at 3. I'm Nana Akua. It's time for our Great British Debate. I'm asking, should NHS staff be given performance-related pay? Hospital funding is due to become independent on patient ratings in a major NHS overhaul. I absolutely love this. It will mean that salaries for doctors and nurses will become tied to how satisfied patients are with their treatments. Now, the change comes in hopes to cut down waiting lists as part of the upcoming Prime Minister's 10-year plan to restore the NHS. So I'm asking, should NHS staff be given performance-based pay? Well, joining me, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also co-founder of Novara Media, Aaron Bastani. Aaron Bastani, what do you think of this?
Sounds like a great idea.
No?
And you had your last guest. I mean, that was her answer. You were saying, what good thing has Labour done? And they could have said...
Well, they haven't done it yet.
Performance-related
They're talking about it.
It's on the horizon.
They might never do it. He said smash the gangs. The gangs are still on the horizon, on their way across the channel.
In theory, then, a good idea.
Yeah, but I like this idea. This is something that they've done, potentially, that I like. But they haven't done it yet.
They haven't done it. I think it's a smart thing. Look, you're going to get people saying nonsense, unnecessary criticism, that's fine. But when you've got, obviously, most people, most of the time, are quite fair and reasonable.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
The onus is then on the health service to behave in a decent manner to get their money. And I think there has to be some onus on them, otherwise they just do what the hell they like.
Well, it just worries me how this is actually going to work, Nana. Look, I went to my own doctor, local doctor. I'm feeling terribly ill. They said it's like a head cold, flu cold, it will go. I persisted. I knew I wasn't right. It ended up to be meningitis.
Oh, my God.
And it was me taking myself then to A&E, well, driven by my son, knowing I was seriously ill.
Yeah.
And so what? If I put a complaint in, that would have made a difference. That would still be my doctor, wouldn't it?
It would still be your doctor, but you've pointed out that he's not doing... Well, it might do, because if a lot of people... You see, the thing is with your experience is that you don't know whether it's one of a string of mistakes that they've been making, because it's just you. So you don't know which patients are there and who else that they've messed about. Because, I mean, look, I went to... I wanted to see my GP. I had, like, a little rash. I think it was from one of my wigs. Called the one that I got from another land, which was human hair, which I won't be wearing ever again. But anyway, so I got this little rash, and it had been going on for a while, and I thought, well, I went to the doctor looked on Google, as they always do, and then I eventually used private medical cover, because I have some, because I thought, well, I'll start with that. And then I went to a dermatologist. The dermatologist couldn't work it out either. They took a little biopsy, still had nothing there, we don't know what it is. So then I went to a skin specialist who looks after skin. They said, oh, that's a bacterial skin infection. Of course it is. This is over many, many months. So I went, and they said, oh, we can't prescribe, but just ask your GP, tell them what it is, show them the picture, and ask them what you need is a course of antibiotics. They told me specifically which ones, but they can't prescribe. That's fair enough. So I did the triage thing online, as you meant to do, and then they wrote back to me saying, well, why didn't you get her to prescribe? And I said, well, as I said before, because she's a skin specialist, she's not a doctor. And as I said, and she's been in the business for 50 years. And I said, unlike all the dermatologists and doctors, she recognised it straight away. Now, are you going to prescribe me the antibiotics that I need to clear up the infection or not, OK, to stop it from spreading further? I said, I've been suffering with it for quite a while, and there's no point me coming in and wasting an appointment which somebody else could take and then come in for you to go on Google. So then they sent me another one back going, well, there's no need to be rude. Why don't you get them to send us? And I just thought, do you know what? You've got time to reply to me. If you really wanted to, you could have actually done an appointment with me online if you didn't, and have a look, and then prescribe. But, oh, no, they then told me to go back to her, to this... So I just went to one of the doctors that you have to pay, then you know, you do that, they do online, exactly what the GP should have done, and I got what I needed. I mean, and that thing was at the chemist the next morning, done via a whole prescription all online and done, and I went to pick it up. I mean, it was just absolutely absurd. I had to go through all of that, and that's the second time my doctor has done that, something like that to me.
Yeah, my experience recently, so with a young daughter, my experience recently at the NHS with young kids is outstanding. It's really good.
With kids' children, yes.
Yeah, but my personal experience over the last, say, 10 years is quite similar to Lizzie, nothing like meningitis. I'm very sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
But I think most people will say, actually, the level of service we've received hasn't quite been up there. I think you're right. I think there'll be a small number of individuals responsible for the majority of problems.
Yeah.
And by having this kind of peer review that the whole of the public feeds into, you're going to work out where those problems are. I think it's really smart. You know, people now, the best information you can find about a GP surgery if you're looking to join one is the Google reviews. Isn't that crazy? We have a publicly owned national healthcare system, and if I want to know what people think about that particular surgery, I have to go on Google. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, but I think we've got to look at the NHS as a whole. It isn't working. It really isn't.
No, it isn't. That's one part.
Putting loads and loads of money into it, it isn't working. I mean, my friend's a nurse, and she said, you know, the management, the paperwork, they've got diversity managers that are on over 100 grand a year. And it's just not working. And, you know, if you get cancer here, it's not great. You're better getting cancer in France or Denmark. You've got more of a survival.
Even Ghana, actually, to be honest with you. My dad once, he lives in Ghana and the UK, and he was here in the UK. And, of course, he was waiting to see a GP, and in the end, he just said, do you know what, I'm going to go to Ghana. He flew to Ghana and got treated immediately.
That's it.
Anyway, if you just tuned in, welcome on board. We'd love to hear your experiences as well with your GPs and NHS in general. Is it good? Is it bad? gbnews.com/your say. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Don't forget you can stream the show live on YouTube. Download the GB News app. It is completely free. Still to come in my interview, I'll be speaking to author Elizabeth Sharkey about the history of rock and roll. Next up, it's time for another Great British debate, and I'm asking, is Glastonbury a national embarrassment? But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Lewis Mackenzie.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister says fixing what he called the broken welfare system is a moral imperative, amid backlash from Labour rebels who say concessions made to the bill yesterday do not go far enough. Hospital funding could be directly linked to the quality of care they provide and patient feedback. The plans are part of a 10-year NHS scheme to be set out by the government next week. Amber heat health alerts are in force across much of England as the country faces its second heat wave of the summer, with temperatures expected to soar to the mid-30s this weekend and peaking on Monday. Border Force has seized 2.4 tonnes of cocaine, worth £100 million at London Gateway Port. It's one of the largest cocaine hauls since records began. The National Crime Agency is investigating. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So the temperatures are going to continue to rise over the next couple of days, but it isn't going to be that warm for all of us. There is still some rain around. All thanks to this weather front that's sitting across the central swathe of the UK, going to continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle over the next couple of days. But we do have high pressure down to the south. Where we see that weather front across northern parts of England, there is going to be some patchy rain and drizzle to end the day on Saturday, perhaps sinking southwards a little into parts of Wales, maybe even southwest England too, seeing some low cloud mist and murk into the early hours of Sunday. But elsewhere, a dry night to come, plenty of clear spells on offer. But despite those clear spells, it is going to be staying really quite mild. Across the south, temperatures only dropping into the high teens, a little fresher further north, but likely still staying in the double figures here. So that does mean a very mild start to the day on Sunday. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, we could see a little bit of low cloud over any high ground, some patchy rain and drizzle in places. But elsewhere across England, generally a dry, bright start to the day. A similar start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland too. Plenty of early morning sunshine on offer. Maybe one or two isolated showers just across the Northern Isles of Scotland. But for most of us, a dry and bright and pleasant start to the day on a Sunday morning, albeit quite a mild start too. That rain and drizzle across parts of Wales, perhaps southwest England, does continue as we head towards the afternoon. Perhaps some rain just arriving across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland too. But for most of us, a dry, bright and sunny day, and a really quite warm day too, particularly across the southeast. Again, temperatures around 29, 30, perhaps even 31 degrees, and even across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, temperatures into the low 20s. That rain pushes northwards across parts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry night for most places to come on Sunday night, but another really quite mild night too. And that sets us up for the peak in those temperatures on Monday or Tuesday, where we could see highs of 34, perhaps even 35 degrees across the southeast, with plenty more sunshine to come.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
36 minutes after 4 o'clock. Welcome. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And don't forget, I've reminded you the GB News app. It is excellent. You can listen to us on radio. You can go to all the stories online. And, of course, you can watch us online as well. But it's time for the Great British Debate. And I'm asking, is Glastonbury a national embarrassment? Festival goers have gathered in Somerset for the UK's most iconic musical festival, but has the event's woke agenda let the country down? Controversial Irish rap group Kneecap will be performing, and Free Palestine benches have been erected across the grounds. One woman reportedly sat on a bench and cried about how privileged she felt. Sorry. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Glastonbury a national embarrassment? Showbiz reporter Stephanie Tecci joins us now from Worthy Farm. Stephanie, you're indoors somewhere in Glastonbury. You managed to find proper shelter. Where's Worthy Farm?
It was needed. It was needed, Nana. So I was like, I like the heat, but today I am roasting.
Yeah. So Worthy Farm, what's that? Is that a little area in Glastonbury, or...?
No, it's basically the grounds for the festival. So the festival is actually in an area called Pilton, not Glastonbury, and it's got 10,000 acres worth of land. So you can imagine this is a very big site. There's over 106 stages here, different arenas.
Wow, look at that.
So it fits about 200,000 people every year.
Wow. But it's a bit embarrassing, isn't it, that they've got pro-Palestine benches and things. Have you seen any of that?
I've seen loads of them, Nana, and I'm not surprised because, you know what, Glastonbury has always had its roots in political activism. So when I come to Glastonbury, I always know there are going to be some messages of political alliances, of what people are really bothered about. I think the reason why people say it's embarrassing is because it's more aligned to the, you know, the woke ideology, as some people will call it. But these are people, they like to express themselves, and Glastonbury is the place for them to do it.
So what's the one woman crying on the bench because of how privileged she is? I'm sorry. It's a bit silly, isn't it?
You know, Nana, it's each to their own at the end of the day. You know, if that's how that woman feels, you know, who are we to say she should not feel privileged? Glastonbury is probably the place where she feels like she can do this and express her views.
Well, what she should do then, if she's that worried about it, she could perhaps help out somewhere. Stephanie Tecci, thank you very much. Have a fabulous Glastonbury. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Right, well, joining me, economist and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy, also co-founder of Navarro Media, Aaron Bastani. I'm so privileged. I'm just going to cry about it for a bit. Lizzie, honestly.
It's a woke fest. I've never been, though. I've never been to Glastonbury.
It used to be so cool and hip.
Well, you know what? I know it's a woke fest, but we've got to say I mean, that place, my friend's gone, Claire Sweeney, a few of my friends, and I thought, how are you going to do it? There's no room service, you know, you're in the tent. They found a little posh hotel around the corner.
So, yeah.
Of course. But it has a huge economic impact. I mean, it makes over £6 million. Apparently, it's doubled from last year. 168 million for UK businesses. And it also generates a lot of money for charities like Oxfam, WaterAid and Greenpeace.
Free Palestine.
Yeah, but, you know, and it's watched by, I think it's 23.1 million people.
Million?
It's not billion. Million. On people, you know, worldwide.
But worldwide, I thought it had been watched by way more than that. Is that all? 20 million? Some shows on the BBC used to do that.
Million. No, but I think...
it must be more than that.
A lot of people watched it. A lot of people enjoy it. Yes, it is a woke fest, but it brings a lot of money in. And like, you know, we've just heard 200,000 people go to watch it, and, you know, and they have a great time. And they also publicise young talent as well as the legends that we know and love. So I love the fact that they do, you know, look after the young talent there. But I'm not happy with them having kneecap on, I'll be honest.
I think it's only 23 million, I think, in this country. But I think worldwide, I'm going to do a quick... There's got to be more than that.
I was told 23.1 million watching.
Yeah,
so
but that will be on the BBC.
I think it is very positive, and what's, you know, it makes us look great on the world stage as well.
Yeah, OK, Aaron Bastani.
I think Glastonbury is the best of Britain.
You think?
You should go, Liz. It's incredible. I didn't go until 2 years ago, the first time, and there is something for everyone. You said over 100 stages. It's kind of mind-boggling. It takes you hours to walk from one end to the other. And I think that's great. I think there are very few things in this country right now where you can go there and there is something for everyone and people are relaxed. And I understand, yes, there's quite a sort of woke left or just left-wing aspect to it. But if you went to the Cheltenham Gold Cup, that would be quite a right-wing event. But I think it's also good that people can go and enjoy themselves and see the horse and have a nice day out. So I agree with Lizzie. I think there's great business implications. And I think it really speaks for the country. People around the world look at Glastonbury and they think, wow, what a cool place.
Yeah, it is cool. Though Jeremy Corbyn, don't forget, got on stage. And that was, my son was there. And he actually then was like, thought he was his hero, which I was like, oh, my goodness. But, you know, it does bring a lot of joy to a lot of people. My friends that are there at the minute are having the time of their life. And they, you know, they were Glastonbury virgins, as it were. So they're loving it.
Well, do you know what? OK, so guess how much the tickets were when Glastonbury first began. How much do you think the tickets were?
Was that in the late 60s?
Let's see, it was I think it was 1970.
OK. £2.
Lizzie Conde?
£1.
They're actually £1, equivalent to £19.77 today.
Wow, there's inflation for you.
It's inflation for you.
Yeah, but look, I'd like to go. Nana, you'll
I'd love to go, but I won't be sitting on a Free Palestine bench, I can tell you that for nothing.
It's so big, Nana, that's the thing. People focus on this stuff. It's like a little country. It's so big.
Right, well, listen, this show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voice. Oh, hello. Are you in Glastonbury? Your opportunity to be on the show. Tell us what you think. It's Suzanne and Daniel. Hello, you're on. Where are you, at Glastonbury?
No, we're at Chatteris Carnival.
Yes.
Hang on, I've had a bit to drink, so...
Well, why are you not...
It
costs £2 to get into work.
I keep moving it, Sue, don't I? Sorry, guys.
Sue, stop moving it.
Stop moving it. It's making me seasick.
So you're at Chatteris in Cambridgeshire?
Yeah.
Yes, it's lovely. Sun's out.
You've boycotted Glastonbury. Why?
I'm a virgin, I've not been. So I thought I'd put somebody on that knew about it. But I had to people that you should have grassroots levels and not just A-liners. No, absolutely community choirs. I've got.
Well, like we've got down here today. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. Love it.
Well, listen, we're going to have to leave it there because your audio's not so good. I wish I could understand what you're saying. Have a drink on me, though, you guys. You're great.
Love his shades.
Have a drink with you, young lady.
Have a drink with me.
Cheers, love.
That's Suzanne and Daniel. They're at Chatterfish in Cambridgeshire. They boycotted Glastonbury for a local festival. Oh, I don't blame them. Looks like fun, doesn't it? Well, there's no need to leave this country, but if you do want to look for some holiday sun elsewhere, then here's the forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading further afield for a holiday over the next few days, windy in Greece, but widespread sunshine for much of the Mediterranean, and I suspect increasingly hot in many places. We've got a keen breeze for Madeira and the Canaries, nothing unusual for the time of year. The heat continues to build through Spain, Portugal, France and Italy. Temperatures high 30s and in some places low or even mid 40s. Very breezy through Greece, but staying largely sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, it's 49 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. Now, it's nearly here now. The much-awaited return of Oasis. North West of England reporter Sophie Reaper has this latest.
Next week, one of the biggest events ever for the world of music. The much-anticipated return of the one and only Oasis. The Gallagher brothers will kick off their reunion tour at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff, performing to crowds of thousands of fans, both old and new. But since the tour was announced, some might say things have been far from supersonic.
In my heart, I wanted it to be true, which is why I believed it. I never thought I'd fall for a scam. Like, they're just very smart. They know how to get you.
When tickets went on sale last August, millions were left disappointed. Sites crashed, dynamic pricing sent costs through the roof, and many were unable to obtain tickets. This opened the door to con artists who've since scammed over 5,000 fans out of more than £2 million.
I came across a video on TikTok of a girl around my age. She said she was selling 4 Oasis tickets and I was interested in buying 2. And she sent a screenshot from Ticketmaster telling her that she could only send 2 or more tickets. So I just made both payments. So that was £250 and she just kept stalling, and it got to the point where I knew I wasn't going to be sent the tickets.
Following the sheer volume of scams, online safety experts McAfee want people to take all necessary precautions. They gave GB News their top tips for staying safe around potential scams. Look out for heavily discounted tickets. Be wary of sellers appearing in your inbox. Don't make payments without protection. And watch out for lookalike websites and for grammar and spelling errors. And yet, as the tour gets ever closer, for superfans like brothers Josh and Connor, nothing has been able to dampen their Oasis fever.
We've been Oasis fans all our lives. It's the best feeling ever. I never thought this would happen. I thought they were done in 2009, so to be able to actually see them live is going to be incredible.
Nothing will ever top them, do you know what I mean? I think the best music's already been made, and it was them, and that's it. No one will ever top that, so yeah, it's once in a lifetime, really.
I only want to see the light that shines behind your eyes.
For many fans of the band, they've waited years for a chance to see Liam and Noel reunite on the stage. And although even the band themselves have advised caution when buying last-minute tickets,
someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide.
The UK still seems to be in for an Oasis-style champagne supernova this summer. Sophie Reaper, GB News.
Oasis, I remember them. I didn't really... I liked them at the time, but they would seem like 2 spoilt brats, to be honest with you.
Well, one was married to my very good friend, Patsy Kensit.
Oh, yes, Patsy Kensit. Oh...
Yes, that's another story.
He wasn't particularly... Doesn't sound like they didn't get on well, did they? What do you think? The people should know better with the tickets and stuff, or am I being crazy?
What, the price gouging?
Yeah.
I think it should be criminalised, shouldn't it?
Why?
Well, it's so unfair. I mean, it's awful. If you these scams, it's dreadful. I mean, it's been so hard to get Oasis tickets. Oh. It's actually easier to get a doctor's appointment than an Oasis ticket.
Well, you say that. Well, speaking of that, we're talking about doctor's appointments, and Wynne says GPs are not allowed to do blood tests on a large range of things unless you say you have symptoms. If you don't have symptoms, they're not allowed to widen their search to find out your ailment, even if they actually wanted to. So no wonder there are millions of people returning because the GP don't pinpoint the ailments the first time. Yeah, I mean, it's just terrible, isn't it, the GP thing? Somebody says, what's this, comedy time? Whilst Oasis was on. And then Paul says, terrible, all the best to you. What's this? I'm so sorry to hear that, Paul. Paul's obviously got an ailment. I must have missed that. Lady of the House says, you wouldn't get me going to Glastonbury for £1 million. Oh. Really? Oh. No, I think I'd do it for £1 million.
I think I would definitely do it for £1 million, whoever that is.
Because I'd buy myself a Winnebago and maybe able to park there.
No, but Claire Sweeney's gone. She's got a nice hotel next door.
Lucky woman. Yeah. Right, well, listen, stay with me. So much more on the way. In the interview, Elizabeth Sharkey about the history of rock and roll. But first, let's get an update with your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So the temperatures are going to continue to rise over the next couple of days, but it isn't going to be that warm for all of us. There is still some rain around. All thanks to this weather front that's sitting across the central swathe of the UK, going to continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle over the next couple of days. But we do have high pressure down to the south, Well, we see that weather front across northern parts of England. There is going to be some patchy rain and drizzle to end the day on Saturday, perhaps sinking southwards a little into parts of Wales, maybe even southwest England too, seeing some low cloud, mist and murk into the early hours of Sunday. But elsewhere, a dry night to come, plenty of clear spells on offer. But despite those clear spells, it is going to be staying really quite mild. Across the south, temperatures only dropping into the high teens, a little fresher further north, but likely still staying in the double figures here. So that does mean a very mild start to the day on Sunday. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, we could see a little bit of low cloud over any high ground, some patchy rain and drizzle in places. But elsewhere across England, generally a dry, bright start to the day. A similar start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland too. Plenty of early morning sunshine on offer. Maybe one or two isolated showers just across the Northern Isles of Scotland. But for most of us, a dry and bright and pleasant start to the day on a Sunday morning, albeit quite a mild start too. That rain and drizzle across parts of Wales, perhaps southwest England, does continue as we head towards the afternoon. Perhaps some rain just arriving across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland too. But for most of us, a dry, bright and sunny day and a really quite warm day too, particularly across the southeast. Again, temperatures around 29, 30, perhaps even 31 degrees, and even across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, temperatures into the low 20s. That rain pushes northwards across parts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry night for most places to come on Sunday night, but another really quite mild night too. And that sets us up for the peak in those temperatures on Monday or Tuesday, where we could see highs of 34, perhaps even 35 degrees across the southeast, with plenty more sunshine to come.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
To all of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 3rd year in a row. So thank you so much for voting for us.
First, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come down the line.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's because of you that we're proud to be the People's Channel. It's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's yours, and of course it's theirs. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me in the next hour, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also co-founder of Navara Media, Aaron Bastani. In my niggle, I took on Sir Keir Starmer as he says he regrets saying this.
We risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together.
For goodness sake, that was the only decent thing that he has said. If you missed that, catch my niggle. It's on GB News on the YouTube channel. And in the Great British Debate, I've been asking, is it time for Sir Keir Starmer to go? The poll is live on the website. Head over there now, cast your vote. But it also seems that he is the undisputed king of U-turns, backtracking on 3 policies, a hat-trick in the last month.
Change, 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 change.
Your mind every time. GB News can exclusively reveal that Nigel Farage's heavy social media presence could reform UK be on course to hoover up the youth vote at the expense of Labour.
Thank you, TikTokers. 1.3 million followers now. Gen Z want to vote reform. Gen Z are increasingly supporting me.
But Sir Keir Starmer isn't convinced as he took a swipe at Nigel Farage at the Welsh Labour conference this morning.
So no, Nigel Farage isn't interested in Wales. He's interested in Nigel Farage.
Yeah, and so are you. You can't get enough of him. Listen to how many times he mentions him.
And I'm speaking out today in relation to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Farage, Nigel 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 Farage, Nigel.
That was in May. In another Great British Debate, is Glastonbury a national embarrassment? The middle-class version of Butlins has reached new levels this year as festival goers report crying for Gaza on Palestine-coloured benches. But coming up in the interview, I'll be speaking to music historian and author Elizabeth Sharkey, who's written a book on the history of rock and roll. She's also married to this legend. Oh, sorry. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Lewis Mackenzie.
Fantastic moves there, Nana. Good afternoon. It's just after 5 o'clock. Here are your latest GB News headlines. Economists are warning tax rises are likely in the autumn following the government's major U-turn on welfare reforms. The Prime Minister announced the concessions yesterday to try and avert a rebellion by more than 120 Labour backbenchers. The changes mean only new claimants, not existing ones, will face stricter checks to decide whether they can claim disability benefits. But critics say it doesn't go far enough and are concerned it will create a two-tier system. Speaking at the Welsh Labour conference this morning, Sir Keir Starmer said fixing the welfare system is a moral imperative.
We cannot take away the safety net that vulnerable people rely on, and we won't. But we also can't let it become a snare for those who can and want to work. And everyone agrees that our welfare system is broken, failing people every day. A generation of young people written off for good, and the costs spiralling out of control. Fixing it is a moral imperative, but we need to do it in a Labour way.
The amount of money hospitals in England receive could be linked to the quality of care they provide, as well as feedback from patients. The plans also include linking doctors' and nurses' pay to their success in bringing down waiting lists. It's part of a 10-year NHS plan that the government could be rolling out next announcing next week. Border Force has seized £100 million worth of cocaine in a UK port. The Home Office says the drugs were found under containers on a ship arriving into London Gateway Port from Panama. Weighing in at 2.4 tonnes, it marks one of the largest cocaine hauls since records began. Meanwhile, at a port in Dover, 20 firearms, 320 rounds of ammunition and almost 180 kilograms of ketamine were seized. The National Crime Agency are investigating. The BBC says Kneecap's performance at Glastonbury will not be live-streamed after one of the band members was charged with a terror offence. A number of politicians, including the Prime Minister, had called for the Irish hip-hop group to be banned from the festival. It follows allegations that Liam O'Gahany displayed a flag in support of proscribed terrorist group Hezbollah during a gig in last year. The rapper is currently on bail and due to be in court in August. He denies the offence. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in half an hour's time.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
It is fast approaching 6 minutes after 5 o'clock. Welcome, if you just tuned in. Oh, yeah, of course, you've been in the sunshine. I was about to say, where have you been? You're telling me, listen, we're in the sunshine this moment. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, we are Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, public confidence in the Prime Minister has plummeted since he came into power last year. So is Britain experiencing buyer's remorse? That is, of course, if you bought into him. Glastonbury outrage as pro-Palestine singer leads chance of death to the IDF during the live broadcast. Is it a hate fest? In the interview, I'll be speaking with music historian and author Elizabeth Sharkey, who's written a book on the history of rock and roll. And for the Great British debate this hour, I'm asking, is Sadiq Khan ruining our capital city? Send me your thoughts, post your comments at gbnews.com/your say. So, public confidence in Sir Keir Starmer has plummeted since he got into office last year, less than a year ago. That's according to a poll by Public First, The Telegraph. 53% of voters have a very unfavourable view of Sir Keir Starmer, with only 26% supporting him, and that is a whopping 21% drop since he took office. So is Britain experiencing buyer's remorse? Well, joining me now is former Labour advisor Kevin Meagher. Kevin, it's not even been a year. People are turning their backs on your great leader, Sir Keir Starmer. I mean, seriously, all those U-turns, 3 last month, that's a hat-trick. I mean, actually, it's this month. And then, obviously, there's been another one in his Island of Strangers speech, which people are equating to Enoch Powell. I don't think there's anything wrong with that speech, to be honest.
It's been a mixed bag. I think it's fair to say, and there's clearly room for improvement. I mean, Keir Starmer's assets, if you like, are that he's got 4 years before he has to go to the voters again in a general election, and he's got a very big parliamentary majority, and he's got a division on the right in British politics between the Conservatives and Reform, which allows Labour, in a sense, to kind of galvanise itself and obviously won lots of seats at the last general election that it wouldn't have won at all if it hadn't been for that. So he's got some structural advantages, but the disadvantages he's got is that he's inherited a very bad hand. There's lots of international problems. We're living in unprecedented times at the moment. He's got to kind of deal with all of that. And he doesn't have money in the piggy bank to fix the things that voters want fixing quickly. So there isn't the money as there would have been for perhaps, memories of Gordon Brown spending 8% year-on-year increases in NHS investment. Keir Starmer's not got anything like that. And I think what's happening for Labour ministers is they're struggling to know how to govern when the piggy bank is empty, and actually how you have to make changes and drive improvements with what you've got. And it's very difficult to do that because there's lots of voices urging them to spend money or to do things in a certain way. And when you can't do that, you've got to try and hold the ball up And until, hopefully the economy turns a corner and the public finances are restored, and therefore the second half of this parliament might feel a bit different. But at the moment, Keir Starmer and his ministers have got, a real uphill battle. I think they're finding it harder than they even anticipated that they were going to find it last year. And they're making some mistakes as well. And when you're in this situation, when you've got a lot of headwinds about things you can't do much about, i.e. the international situation and the big financial pressures, you've got to get the small things right. You've got to make sure that you don't end up having a row about some millionaire donor buying your suits. These kinds of things should never have happened. You can't end up in a situation where you're doing these big U-turns. If you want to go out and believe that rich pensioners shouldn't have the winter fuel payment, you've got to go out there and really make that case. And they didn't. They kind of announced it.
They never mentioned it in their manifesto, which would have been useful, seeing as it was the first thing they did. Listen, I just want to come in on a few things you said. You said you can't govern when the piggy bank is empty. Listen, they are notorious for emptying the piggy bank, aren't they? The Tory government came in, when the Tory party came in, there was that famous note that there's no money left. So we know that the Labour Party we know that usually when they're in office, and it's a historical thing, is that they often empty the piggy bank themselves. And you also said they've been given a bad hand. Well, look, the Tories had to deal with Brexit, which you could say it's their own fault, but it was something.
Whose fault was it?
But they had to deal with Brexit, but they still had to deal with it. But the bottom line is the public voted for it, and yet there was so much opposition within each of the parties, and they literally all put their hand in and tried to stop it from happening. And the Labour Party were also complicit in that. But then the Tories also had to deal with COVID and then the war in Ukraine. So they also had a pretty bad hand, in particular towards the end. So I don't really think that's a good enough just excuse, because the Labour Party have been practising office for 14 years. So they've been able to get there together for 14 years.
And the Tories were screwing it up for 14 years as well, I might add, with austerity and everything else they did.
But the Tories did screw it up.
Let me finish.
I haven't. I'm going to interrupt. I'm saying that the Tories did screw it up, but that doesn't mean that Labour should also do the same thing.
No, but the Labour's had, the Tories had 14 years in power. Labour's not been in power for 14 months.
Exactly. It's even scarier.
Yes, it's not. Some of these things have not gone great in the first year, granted. But the minimum wage has gone up. The poorest workers in this country have got more money in their pockets as a result of Labour. £20 billion has gone into the NHS and staved off a winter crisis last year. So, so there are some improvements. Granted, the scale of the challenges that the country's got, we may be going through a political revolution. It may be that the voters have said, look, we tried the blue team, they didn't deliver. We're trying the red team. If we don't feel that they deliver, we may go to reform. We may do something else. Jeremy Corbyn may set up a political party. There was a poll the other day that suggested if he did, he'd win 10% of the vote right off the bat. So we may be going through a political revolution in this country. We don't know what's going to come out the other side of it. My instinct is that the British system stretches but never snaps, and that the blue team and the red team, one of them is going to be stood on the steps of Downing Street after a general election. And at the moment, Keir Starmer's got some problems. He needs to improve his game, his operation, and his ministers as well. And I don't think that's lost on them. But with 4 years off a general election, he's got a very big majority. And if the weather turns and improves on the economy and the public finances improve, then it's still all to play for. And at this stage of the Parliament, you don't write anything off.
All right. Well, this is good to talk to you. Thank you very much. That is Kevin Meagher. He's a former Labour advisor. Right, well, as you said, there's not even been 14 months, but actually hasn't actually even been 12, to be fair. But in the last few moments, there's also been outrage at Glastonbury. Punk band Bob Vylan have sparked uproar after they used their set to lead chants of death to the IDF and free Palestine. The group also expressed solidarity with Irish rap trio Kneecap, who were scheduled to perform 30 minutes after them on the West Holts stage, after it was confirmed that the BBC would not be broadcasting their set live. In the meantime, singer Jade at Glastonbury stuck her middle finger up to Reform UK and transphobia, and they were all swearing and all sorts of things. Joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also co-founder of Novara Media, Aaron Bastani. Lizzie Cundy, I mean, look, death to the IDF, what?
That's disgraceful.
Disgusting.
Look, I'm all for freedom of speech, but with responsibility, and this isn't on, and it's disgraceful, actually, as I said before, that Glastonbury are having this banned kneecap after they did display the Hamas flag, and it's just not on. And, you know, BBC at last doing something right and not putting the live streaming on. But for me, this is totally wrong. And I said, sadly, this festival is becoming all about politics, all about the wrong thing and not about the music.
It's always been quite a political thing, though, hasn't it, Aaron?
It's always been very political. I think, obviously, what's changed in the last 25 years is now you're live streaming stuff, you've got real-time social media reaction, and that obviously changes the nature of what's going on.
You know what? I mean, these festivals are kind of important, though, aren't they, in a way? Because you get the political aspects of things and people talking. But for me, looking at it, I don't like the festival itself being complicit in supporting one or another cause. Do you know what I mean? So having free Palestine benches and things like that, to me, then I don't know whether the festival put them up there or not. I'm not opposed to it being a political talking shop where people talk, but what I am opposed to is if the festival having an involvement showing a bias to one of those political views. So, for example, putting the pro-Palestine benches, so the benches in Palestinian flag colours and stuff like that, to me, I just think is a bit... You know, it's a bit odd, really. It's a bit off.
There's a big chunk of the country that agrees with that stuff, and there's a big chunk of the country that disagrees with that stuff. You know, it's a country of 68 million people at the end of the day. And I think, in terms of free speech, if there's incitement to violence, etc., that's covered under the law. We'll see what happens there. What's ironic here, though, is that they didn't broadcast Kneecap. They broadcast this chap instead, and...
Yeah, and he's gone and done that. Well, look, here we go. Let's show you a bit of Bob Villan in Glastonbury right now.
Free, free! Free, free! Alright, but have you heard this one, though? Death, death to the IDF! 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 Death, death to the IDF!
So that is a clip. Obviously, you know, we don't endorse any of that, but we're showing you what is happening currently at Glastonbury, and this is what they are using the Glastonbury stage for. I just don't think that is acceptable. You know, if that was, I would take his mic down. His mic should be switched off, because actually, what is there somebody there with an Israeli flag? Will it then become a riot? Will it then become...
I mean, what if you're Jewish? You're there. You're going to feel really intimidated and scared, and you know, that is a hate fest. It's supposed to be about the music and love and enjoying and happiness. That is wrong in for every way. That is out of order, and he should be taken off stage.
I'd take his mic down and say, well, you're there to sing, so just sing. I don't mind the political conversations and people supporting their political bands and so on. But when you're chanting death to people, I think we've crossed the line there, don't we, surely, Aaron?
Well, I kind of like what the Americans do with free speech. I'm quite a fundamentalist on it. But you're right, obviously, this is now going to mean questions for Glastonbury and, of course, the BBC. I think they broadcast that.
Well, that's right. It was shown on the BBC. Yeah, they showed that, which we're showing it because they've showed it, so that we know that. But they filmed it, and obviously it's a news story. But I'm not impressed with that at all. And I think the organisers at Glastonbury need to have a word with themselves, because I don't know who put up the pro-Palestine benches into place. I mean, come on.
And as I said, what if you are Jewish? I've got Jewish friends that are actually there today. How they're going to be feeling with all of that? It's frightening. And we've had enough of this. It's not fair. And I know you said Glastonbury's always been political, but this is going one step beyond. It's not on.
Yeah, it is a bit. Well, listen, we have gone to the BBC for a comment, but we haven't got a reply yet. But stay with us 17 minutes after 5 o'clock. Next, in my interview, I'll be speaking to author Elizabeth Sharkey about the history of rock and roll.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Tell me now, are you concerned about these driverless cars
Tim, that are going to be put into operation in London by as early as next year?
Well, Uber is preparing to test fully self-driving taxis on London's roads for the first time. By 2026, I have an observation there that if you look at Elon Musk over the last 5 or 6 years, kept promising that there were going to be driverless cars. The norm in America, and it hasn't happened yet. So I'd be very surprised if by 2026 that's actually on the streets of London. I'm more intrigued, though, if they are driverless robotic cars, if they're still going to give you a review. You know, you get your 5 stars at the end if you were a good passenger. Who's going to review how good you are once you're in these cars?
Would you trust it? Would you take one?
I think
I would, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Really?
Would you, Claire?
I know, I'm a bit reticent.
I'm a bit nervous about it.
Yeah, accepting a driverless car.
I think what they do eventually is they'll take any joy out of driving that there is. You get you won't get in, you feel the smell, get the gear stick. You know, I mean, a car is a great joyous thing
I don't take any joy from
to drive.
Yeah.
I take no joy. It's awful.
What?
Such a chore.
Is that because
driving.
Are you a good driver?
No, I'm a terrible
driver. Well, that's why.
So maybe this could be a good thing for me.
I think it's
I mean,
the drivers that take the joy out of it sometimes.
Oh, I just think, can you imagine a glitch in the Matrix with a driverless car?
Oh,
what on earth
You'd have to hop in the front
you and I
seat.
live in Chiswick, and the Chiswick High Road, like lots of high roads in many towns and villages.
Well, it's the bus lanes that's a problem with
But they've
Chiswick High
closed
Road.
all those down now, and if an ambulance goes down, there is carnage trying to get through to whoever they're needing to treat.
Or in King
So
Street,
it's
if a bus
dangerous.
tries to overtake a bus or anything else, you can't do it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio 21 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. And now it's time for this week's interview.
Wanna hold her tight. Yeah, teenage kicks right through the night. I'm gonna come.
Well, my guest is married to music legend Fergal Sharkey, so she definitely knows about Britain's rich history of rock and roll. Music historian and author Elizabeth Sharkey travels deep into our rich musical history in her new book, Why Britain Rocked, How Rock Became Roll and Took Over the World. I'm pleased to say that Elizabeth joins me in the studio now. Elizabeth Sharkey, good to meet you.
You too, Nana.
I just want to say he looks very, very handsome. Did you know him then?
No, I didn't.
You didn't know him then?
No. We met probably, I think, around 2011.
OK.
Yes. When I was doing my first research for my book, and I met him and he agreed to be interviewed, and it sort of went on from there.
Oh, that's wonderful. And he's doing such great work with water.
Yeah.
I've been listening to all of the stuff because I wanted somebody to talk about water, and finally he has. Somebody has.
Yes, I
Good.
know. A lot of people come up and thank him now for the work that he's doing.
Yeah.
And it is a relentless task. And people now are so aware of it because of the work that he's been doing over so many years.
So well done, Fergal. We
very
really
proud.
appreciate that.
Yes.
So let's talk about you. You're a music historian.
Yes.
Now, I love music.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been in music for many, many years. I used to do a lot of radio.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what do you cover as a music historian? What do you look into?
Well, I have been obsessed with music since I was very small. And I got to a point where I thought, what is it about British culture that's manifested this amazing music for so many decades? And I would listen to the theories, and obviously, you know, the blues records coming into the ports and the influence of America is really important. But I thought for something so intensely creative and with great longevity, I thought there's got to be something deeper here in the soil that made it manifest. And so I started looking back through history, and then it sort of revealed itself like a wonderful mosaic. I was sort of dusting it out, and I could see the patterns and the connections, and I thought, well, there it is. So many wonderful things that were really unexpected, that were exciting to discover.
Because this country has created some incredible artists, hasn't we? Like we've had David Bowie, Dire Straits, some real rock, like some great musicians.
Yeah.
And other countries, we then give our music to other countries. We've become... Why is it? What is it about this country that seems to create these artists?
Well, I would, after all the research I've done, and when you read the book, it'll become apparent. The conditions that were here in Britain were very similar to America because we had the Celtic influence, which was really important, but also the African American influence because that came much earlier than people possibly know. So in the 19th century, we had African American creativity here in this country on stage with Ira Aldridge and with music as well. Artists from America coming here to have really great careers. So that kind of reinvigorated our music making. And also created the sort of more open atmosphere for the blues musicians to come in the 50s.
That's right, because you had blues, you had Motown.
Yes, exactly.
And that was kind of like that was the American version of their kind of real music moment.
Yeah.
And then it came to the UK, and then we ended up with rock.
Yes.
You know, with the Rolling Stones.
Yes, it was the Beatles, obviously.
And the Beatles, of course, the Beatles.
Because they...
I never used to like the Beatles.
Oh, you didn't?
Not really,
no. Not any
I found them a bit boring.
No, you can't say that.
Some of them, though, when I listen to, like Penny Lane, when I listen to it, then I hear... I have to credit them with being incredible.
Yeah.
It wasn't really to my taste.
OK.
But really quite incredible.
Not even Here Comes the Sun.
Well, when you listen to the layering of the music as well...
Yeah.
Do you think that nowadays we've lost a lot of that? Because a lot of it's synthesised, where they actually played the instruments. They could actually read music. They could actually work with the music.
Yes. Well, it's interesting because it's obviously more instrument-based. You look at how they sort of start the songs. It's with a guitar to get the melody before the production values are set, whereas now it's more about the production and then put the melody and the lyrics on the top.
Yeah.
So melody was foremost, which is basically a great song that people want to sing along to. And that's what the Beatles were all about. And they set a really high bar for all the other musicians to follow and try and match them. And a big part of why it's been such a prolific creativity in this country is the competitiveness, because it's like, we're going to have a number one. We want to get to number one. And so I love the fact that Kevin Rowland wrote Come on Eileen, thinking... I
love that.
I want to write a monster song.
Come on, Eileen.
And he did.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
There's some great tracks, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, what if you could pick out a few of your favourite songs of all time from across the decades?
Oh.
I mean, like, OK, so did you for the 50s or 60s, have you got any in the 50s, 60s?
I would say Hound Dog.
OK.
I love...
By Elvis?
Elvis, yes.
Elvis. What about the 70s?
The 70s, oh, my goodness. It would have to be a Blondie song,
Really, Blondie?
actually.
Yeah, I love Blondie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ELO, I'm very
ELO.
excited to go and see them next week. Yeah.
Video killed the race.
That was...
Oh, no, that's not them, that's...
That was... Oh, I can't remember his name now.
Oh, yeah.
Buggles.
Was it Buggles?
Yes. Yes.
ELO, what did they do? Electric Light Orchestra?
Yes.
What did they...
They did Mr Blue Sky.
Oh, Mr Blue Sky, very good.
Yeah.
OK.
Yeah.
Give you that.
So...
80s?
80s, I was a real indie kid in the 80s, so it would be a Smith song, This Coming Man.
Yeah, Smith.
And probably a bit of goth.
Bit of goth.
I would say.
I used to love Pat Benatar.
Did you?
We are young, honey. Because I was more of a rock chick than a sort of soulful chick.
Yeah.
So I found a little bit of the R&B a bit wishy-washy.
Yeah.
So I was into my rock music. And I quite liked the rock when it was mixed with house and a bit of, you know...
So what were your favourites through the decades?
Oh, well, I have to admit, I did like Elvis, I have to admit. 70s, it'd probably be Diana Ross and a lot of Motown. Upside down, you're turning me, you're giving love instinctively, all that kind of stuff.
When I discovered an album of hers when I was about 11, and I think it was my brother's album, and it was all her solo stuff. And I played it every time I came home from school. I was so obsessed with it, and I thought, "Oh, this is the adult world." Basically, the sort of the slings and arrows of love affairs as an adult, and it was such an inroad to the adult world for me as a child.
Yeah.
And I've got such deep affection for Diana Ross for that album.
I think for the 80s it would have been Kim Wilde and all those Bananarama, that kind of thing.
And, of course, Soft Cell.
Yeah, Soft Cell, Tainted Love.
And Japan.
Oh, great. And then the 90s, I loved my dance music. Baby D, Let Me Be Your Fantasy.
Yeah.
I was very much into my dance music.
You were on the dance floor.
I was on the dance floor.
Yeah. Till 3 in the morning.
I was there till 3 in the morning. It was me. Yeah. Yeah, but the music has been incredible. So tell me a little bit more about the book and where people can find it.
Well, it's available now in Waterstones and online. And it's really... I go back to medieval Scotland.
Oh, really?
To trace the journey of the ballads, which actually have a cultural bridge to Norway and the Scandinavian countries, because the story song was really strong in Scandinavia. And it came over to the east coast of Scotland through Aberdeen, through the port of Aberdeen. And then you've got the border ballads in the lowlands as well, which were really strong story songs. And they all went across to Ulster with the plantation, and also when all the mass exodus to America during the 1700s, when it was the British colonies, all that music went across the Atlantic. And a lot of the people that went there settled in Appalachia, which then fed into bluegrass, which then formed one of the elements of rock and roll.
I see.
And then it comes back to Britain.
So where are we now with the journey of music? Where does it end in your... Do you end it now?
Yes. Well, I end this... Because so much has been written from the 1950s onwards, I thought, well, that's been well covered. I wanted to write this long history that brings us to the Beatles.
Brings us to the Beatles. So you brought us to the Beatles.
Of so many stories in British culture and American culture as well, of course.
Fascinating.
For that big explosion in the 60s. But it's interesting because Glastonbury is such a part of it as well, because the Quakers have had a very strangely influential impact on British pop music. So Michael Evers has talked about how they helped him get Glastonbury established, because it's quite a sort of heartland of a Quakerism in Somerset, because Clark's Shoes is from Somerset. So there's a lot of a long history of connection there. But also the Quakers were part of the Scots-Irish going over to America in the first place, so they kind of helped usher the music over to America. And then they were great supporters of abolition, so that kind of set a more positive atmosphere for the African-American artists to come over in the 1800s.
What do you make of Glastonbury at the moment? We're running out of time, but in your view, what do you make of Glastonbury? Because it's become quite political. People are saying things on stage that really probably they could be arrested for.
Yeah.
Has it always been like that? Because I feel it's taken a bit of a wily turn. It's always been political, but it's never been political and sort of insidious and offensive.
Yes, wily. Wily, that's a good word. Well, it's always had its roots in non-violence, because in the 80s it was it was called the CND Festival. So it's always been very much promoting the Quaker ethics of non-violence and social justice. So that's got huge connections for Glastonbury and its roots, which, you know, it's part of the land. It's a real connection to the land as well. A lot of people go there because they can feel the Glastonbury energy. And I've been a couple of times, and you do feel... I felt it. And it's got a wonderful euphoric atmosphere.
I can imagine, because all the souls that have been there and the people who've sung there, this incredible piece of land that... I mean, I believe that certain areas hold energy.
They do.
And so I would say that would be a thing, but...
And it's been a sacred site for 2,000 years.
But it's at risk of turning itself into something else if it continues allowing this negative energy to...
Well, the political discourse shifts and changes all the time. So, it's sort of, you know, the current affairs. So, but you know, you can't change the energy of Glastonbury. It's been there for millennia.
Well, listen, I've never been. Did you go to Winnebago? Yes or no?
No chance.
You went in a tent.
Actually, I had to sleep out, not in the tent, by a fire, and I was freezing cold. I know that was.
I don't think I could do that. Well, Elizabeth,
it wasn't fun, I have to say.
Elizabeth Sharkey, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. We're running out of time, but I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. So, Elizabeth, your book, what's it called, and where can people find it?
It's called Why Britain Rocked.
Why Britain Rocked.
And it's available now.
How rock
And also, I've got a
roll.
website with a playlist for each chapter. Wonderful. An extensive playlist.
Lovely.
Which sort of exemplifies what each chapter's about.
And the web address is?
It's Elizabeth Sharkey.
Elizabeth Sharkey, the wife of the incredible Fergal Sharkey. There is her book, Why Britain Rocked, How Rock Became Roll and Took Over the World. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Lovely to talk to you. Right, well, stay tuned. Loads more still to come on GB News. It's just fast approaching 34 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come in my Great British Debate, is Sir Sadiq Khan ruining our capital city? But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Lewis Mackenzie.
Nana, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Your headlines at 5:30. The Prime Minister says fixing what he calls the broken welfare system is a moral imperative amid backlash from Labour rebels who say concessions made to the bill yesterday don't go far enough. Hospital funding could be directly linked to the quality of care they provide and patients' feedback. The plans are part of a 10-year NHS scheme set to be out to the government by next week. Amber heat health alerts are in force across much of England as the country faces its second heatwave of the summer, with temperatures expected to soar into the mid-30s this weekend and peaking on Monday. And finally, Border Force have seized 2.4 tonnes of cocaine worth £100 million at London Gateway Port. It's one of the largest cocaine hauls since records began. The National Crime Agency is investigating. Well, those are your latest headlines. Mark White has your latest at the top of the hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So the temperatures are going to continue to rise over the next couple of days, but it isn't going to be that warm for all of us. There is still some rain around. All thanks to this weather front that's sitting across the central swathe of the UK, going to continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle over the next couple of days. But we do have high pressure down to the south. Where we see that weather front across northern parts of England, there is going to be some patchy rain and drizzle to end the day on Saturday, perhaps sinking southwards a little into parts of Wales, maybe even southwest England too, seeing some low cloud, mist and murk into the early hours of Sunday. But elsewhere, a dry night to come, plenty of clear spells on offer. But despite those clear spells, it is going to be staying really quite mild. Across the south, temperatures only dropping into the high teens, a little fresher further north, but likely still staying in the double figures here. So that does mean a very mild start to the day on Sunday. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, we could see a little bit of low cloud over any high ground, some patchy rain and drizzle in places. But elsewhere across England, generally a dry, bright start to the day. A similar start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland too. Plenty of early morning sunshine on offer. Maybe one or two isolated showers just across the Northern Isles of Scotland. But for most of us, a dry and bright and pleasant start to the day on a Sunday morning, albeit quite a mild start too. That rain and drizzle across parts of Wales, perhaps southwest England, does continue as we head towards the afternoon. Perhaps some rain just arriving across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland too. But for most of us, a dry, bright and sunny day and a really quite warm day too, particularly across the southeast. Again, temperatures around 29, 30, perhaps even 31 degrees, and even across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, temperatures into the low 20s. That rain pushes northwards across parts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry night for most places to come on Sunday night, but another really quite mild night too. And that sets us up for the peak in those temperatures on Monday or Tuesday, where we could see highs of 34, perhaps even 35 degrees across the southeast, with plenty more sunshine to come.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. Welcome. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It's just coming up to 39 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you've just tuned in, why now? You should have got in at 3. It's near the end of the show. No, it's fine. Welcome. It's time now for the final great British debate of this hour. I'm asking, is Sir Sadiq Khan ruining our capital city? London Mayor Sadiq Khan has been accused of tone deafness as the number of London Transport employees on six-figure salaries surged by 900. It comes as the Tories accuse the mayor of not clearing up the underground graffiti because it will help him get more money from central government. So for the great British debate this hour, I'm asking, is Sadiq Khan ruining our great capital? Lizzie Cundy, we'll start with you.
Yes, he is. And I have no idea where he was knighted. What, for failure? If I get into a black cab, that's the first thing they start talking about is the Mayor of London and how he's destroying our city. It doesn't move. I mean, how are we to make money? You can't go over 20 miles an hour, but every road is blocked. There are no spaces for anyone to stop for businesses. He's just ripping off the motorist.
He would argue that what he's trying to do is clear up the air quality, even though we do know that some of the reporting of the air quality was proved to be slightly fudged, or that he'd had some input in it.
Well, let's be honest, if that was the case, why doesn't he do that with the London Underground?
That's a good point.
And also the safety of London Underground, which is horrific. The graffiti in London Underground, which, one of our GB News hosts had to go around painting, and he said how easy it was to do. And he spent 6.3 million rebranding, don't forget, TfL Overground, giving them different names, wasting our money.
His staffing levels have increased. They've doubled, haven't they?
And his arrogance. If there are any questions, he won't answer. His attitude stinks. And for me, he's the worst we've ever had. And he's destroying our city.
Yes, but he was voted in again, wasn't he? And this is a third term, which is usually unheard of. And so somebody likes him. Aaron Bastani.
So the hook for this is a massive increase in people at TfL, Transport for London, multi-billion-pound budget, earning more than £100,000.
Yeah.
The figures are extraordinary.
Yeah.
Right? I say this as somebody who's very supportive of the idea of public transport. I like TfL. I think, actually, you look at the size of London, the size of the network, they generally do a good job. It's twice the size of the Paris network, London's. 78 employees earned more than the Prime Minister at TfL. 78 earned more than the PM. 2,200 earned more than six figures, i.e. more than £100,000. I don't think many people would say that's particularly sensible. I know London housing is very expensive, I get that. I mean, that's why we should have more of it and we should have cheaper housing. But 78 people are more than the Prime Minister?
Oh, no.
No.
That's not defensible, right? I don't think anybody sensible, right, left, centre, none of the above would say, yeah.
How has he sort of got away with these people being paid so much money? Because to me, it doesn't make any sense. What is it that they're being paid so much money for?
Well, that's what we need to question.
Confused as to why.
We need answers, actually.
But he never answers any questions. With Suzanne Hall, I've seen how that when they have conversations, he doesn't answer a question. He's actually quite rude, in my view, towards her.
He's totally...
I find his attitude slightly misogynistic towards her, if I'm honest. That's just my view, having watched the clips of how he speaks to her. And I guess she gives as good as she gets, so she's no wallflower either. But I find it quite offensive when I watch him just evading questions.
Oh, I think it's disgraceful, and the way he treats her is awful. He just blanks her. It's like he's above her. He's so rude, and he's not putting this city first. I've never seen this city in such a worse state. Knife crime, everything else. And there's a safety. There are real safety issues for women, and we can't be, even like we can't be dropped off in certain roads because they're closed, or he's making them, for pedestrians.
Well, obviously, I mean, Sadiq Khan isn't here to defend himself, but I wonder what he would say. I mean, I would like to invite you, Sadiq Khan, to interview here on GB News. I'm more than happy to talk to you about all of this if you think we're being unfair or you've got something to say. We'd love to hear it from you. Get in touch with our people. We'll try and get in touch with you.
Where I would disagree with Lizzie a bit is, London is still an amazing... maybe you do think this, don't want to put words in your mouth you're not agreeing with. London is still an amazing city. People are very negative about London. I think it's not the place it was 10, 15 years ago. Absolutely true. But still, on a bright day, when the sun's out, gorgeous place, amazing buildings, brilliant people, brilliant businesses, beautiful parks. Still got a lot to say for itself. And I'm a bit worried that in Britain...
don't wear a nice watch, though, just in case someone nabs it off.
That's true, no, but I also think that right now, because we're in a bad place as a country, people are maybe overemphasising just how bad some things are. And London is still very much...
I don't think we are. We're
still
looking...
very much
This is
a
factual.
global success story.
No, but this is factual, isn't it? And you can slide quite quickly. People from other countries are warning each other not to wear their expensive jewellery when they come to London. So when you're hearing that, a lot of people coming from India and all those countries are saying, don't go into London with a nice watch on.
Exactly.
You'll have it nicked.
And I love London. I'm from London.
You had shoes nicked the other day.
I had a pair of shoes stolen on the London Underground. I just put them down for a second. I looked at my phone, looked down there, they were gone. And the lady said, "Oh, that guy's just walked off with your shoes." I mean,
not the ones she was wearing, obviously.
No, but I mean, it's just unbelievable. You're not safe. The other night, coming out of a London club, thankfully I had someone with me, but they were surrounded with motorbikes with these guys ready to pounce. It's frightening. It isn't the same city. He's done nothing about it, and all he does is self-righteous and he's rude, and he doesn't answer any questions, Nana.
A lot of them don't answer any questions. Keir Starmer's another one who doesn't answer questions, but I don't know. Aaron Basali, final word to you.
Yeah, it's not just Sadiq Khan, it's politics right now across the country, particularly at a local level. Politicians just don't seem very interested in the basic, important stuff. Graffiti, picking up rubbish, the conditions of streets...
Knife crime.
Empty shop fronts, crime, antisocial behaviour, etc. Exactly. The basic stuff, OK, do the complicated stuff, global affairs and energy transition, all very important, but voters really, really care about that stuff, right?
Yeah, well, wasn't he out in America saying how we should legalise marijuana? I mean, come on. Mayor Giuliani, who did such a great job on New York, perhaps you could look at what he did and maybe bring some of that back here from America instead, rather than just calling for legalisation of marijuana. Right, 46 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. If you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
If you're heading further afield for a holiday over the next few days, windy in Greece, but widespread sunshine for much of the Mediterranean, and I suspect increasingly hot in many places. We've got a keen breeze for Madeira and the Canaries, nothing unusual for the time of year. The heat continues to build through Spain, Portugal, France and Italy. Temperatures high 30s and in some places low or even mid 40s. Very breezy through Greece, but staying largely sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The buzzers. Where are our buzzers? Where can we get the floor manager to bring the buzzers in, please? Oh, we're back on. No, I knew I was. Oh. Had you fooled there, though? But we need the buzzers, though, so can she bring the buzzers in? Right, well, it's just coming up to the time for our quick fire quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories hitting the headlines right now. We're still waiting for our buzzers, so we will wait for a moment. In the meantime, let's just have a look at some of the emails that people have been sending us, because we have been very busy.
Can I read out?
Go on, yes.
Richard Thomas has sent in, and this has made me laugh, and it's called that hokey dopey. You put your lefty leg in, you blame it on the right, in, out, ratings down the spout. You do the okey dopey and you turn around. That's what Starmer's all about.
Everybody,
So, it's boring when people...
Right, go on.
Just to say, many funny
that was smooth.
Which I wish I could read some of them out.
We'll read some of them. Right, brilliant. Right, now, so joining me, Lizzie Cundy, as you heard there, and Aaron Bastani. Question 1, according... your buzzer, please, Lizzie.
Oh.
Aaron, your buzzer. Lovely. Question 1, according to a new poll, what percentage of Brits see the US as a friend and ally? Is it A, 30%, B, 45%, or C, 71%? Ooh, exactly the same time. I'll go with Aaron Bastani.
30%.
That's A. Lizzie,
OK, I'm going to go different. B, 45%.
B, 45%. The answer is you're both probably wrong. A, 30%. Yes, Aaron Bastani.
That's bad, right?
Right.
That's very bad.
Well, the new YouGov poll showed a decline in trust ever since December, when 42% of respondents said they viewed the US as a friend and ally. So 30% now. Wow. Question 2, NATO leaders met in which Dutch city to formalise a new agreement on defence spending? Open question. Lizzie Cundy. Hague. Push your buzzer.
I think The Hague, yeah, but I was second. So.
You should have said something else, though. The Hague, Lizzie Cundy's absolutely right. Yes. 1-1. Question 3. According to a new study, students in the UK and Ireland will spend how many years of their life on their phone? Closest answer wins.
Oh.
Aaron Bastani.
7.
Lizzie Cundy.
15.
15. The answer is 25 years.
Wow.
Did you say 15?
15.
2-1, Lizzie Cundy. Answer 25 years.
That's terrifying.
According to a new study, the average student could spend up to 25 years of their life on their smartphone.
Wow.
Right, true or false? £96 million of magic mushrooms have been seized from a vessel at a UK port. Lizzie Cundy. True. Aaron Bastani.
False, because you've had this story all morning about cocaine, no?
The answer is no, it was cocaine. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Wow,
it's 2-2. This is the decider. Multiple choice. Today, Sir Keir Starmer said fixing welfare is A, necessary principle, B, a moral imperative, or C, a categorical principle. Lizzie Cundy.
A categorical principle. I'm saying it.
I'm going to go A, necessary principle.
I'd say probably categoric, because he's just talked a load of nonsense. It's a moral imperative. The only one that we didn't do, which means it's a draw, a tiebreaker.
That's fine.
All right, here's a throwaway question. Please don't throw it away. Throughout the show, I've been asking, is it time for Sir Keir Starmer to go? According to our GB News poll, the results, Lizzie. Closest answer is?
95%.
Say yes, OK.
90%.
90%? Nah, 100%, man. What's wrong with you? Little point. I'll give it to Lizzie, closest answer. We'll give her that one. 100% of you say yes.
Wow.
None of you say no. We all want him to go away. Well, listen, I've got to say a huge thank you to my panel. Lizzie Cundy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lizzie Cundy. And also to Aaron Vastani. Aaron Vastani, thank you so much as well.
Thank you.
And a huge thank you to you for your company. I'll be back same time, same place next week. Next is the Saturday 5.
Hello everybody, yes, Saturday 5 is back and we are bigger than ever. Look who's here, back from starting World War III tonight on the show.
Yes, Alex, I'll be talking about how Keir's mate, Lord Sam Hermer, hates this country.
I'm an NHS GP and Labour can't fix it.
Keir Starmer's spine has filed for asylum.
Labour wants to kill off landlords.
And you are such a Karen. Why, that could be illegal.
We'll see you after the weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So the temperatures are going to continue to rise over the next couple of days, but it isn't going to be that warm for all of us. There is still some rain around. Well, thanks to this weather front that's sitting across the central swathe of the UK, going to continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle over the next couple of days. But we do have high pressure down to the south. Where we see that weather front across northern parts of England, there is going to be some patchy rain and drizzle to end the day on Saturday, perhaps sinking southwards a little into parts of Wales, maybe even southwest England too, seeing some low cloud, mist and murk into the early hours of Sunday. But elsewhere, a dry night to come, plenty of clear spells on offer. But despite those clear spells, it is going to be staying really quite mild. Across the south, temperatures only dropping into the high teens, a little fresher further north, but likely still staying in the double figures here. So that does mean a very mild start to the day on Sunday. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, we could see a little bit of low cloud over any high ground, some patchy rain and drizzle in places. But elsewhere across England, generally a dry, bright start to the day. A similar start across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland too. Plenty of early morning sunshine on offer. Maybe one or two isolated showers just across the Northern Isles of Scotland. But for most of us, a dry and bright and pleasant start to the day on a Sunday morning, albeit quite a mild start too. That rain and drizzle across parts of Wales, perhaps southwest England, does continue as we head towards the afternoon. Perhaps some rain just arriving across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland too. But for most of us, a dry, bright and sunny day and a really quite warm day too, particularly across the southeast. Again, temperatures around 29, 30, perhaps even 31 degrees. And even across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, temperatures into the low 20s. That rain pushes northwards across parts of Scotland, but otherwise a dry night for